Kansas won.
Kansas, sorry. Kansas.
But it was, North Carolina was ahead by 15 and a half.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Prescott Unified School District Governing Board to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, but first I just want to say how lovely it is to see all these faces appearing before me this evening. So welcome to all of you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item is the approval of the agenda. Any changes, suggestions, anything about the agenda? Otherwise, could I get a motion?
I'll move to consider approving the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Next, we will approve the minutes. Any changes, questions, anything on the minutes?
Honey, you ready for us?
Could I get a motion for that, please?
Move to consider approving the minutes for the regular study and voting session meeting of March 1st, 2022 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from the regular study and voting session meeting of March 1, 2022 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right. We come to the part of our meeting that I am growing to enjoy more and more all the time. So we have been each month recognizing a group of our employees. And as we continue to honor our PUSD employees group each month with a declaration at our board meeting, we also would encourage students, other staff, and families to thank members of that group, of that month's honored group, through posts on the PUSD Facebook page or more directly to the individuals. We want every employee of PUSD to know how special they are to us. This month, we are declaring April as Exceptional Student Services, otherwise known as Special Ed, Month in PUSD. We have asked our district and school level ESS employees to join us tonight and to share this recognition with their classroom cohorts. Terry Gorman is PUSD's Special Education Director. Terry, would you introduce us to your department members?
I would. You want them
Maybe
to
as you call their name,
or
they could
I can
come
do
up.
that. So you know how they say it takes a village, right?
Yep.
Well, these people are my village, and I'm going to get all choked up about this. And what we do for our students in PUSD who are special education students could not be done nor accomplished without the people in this room. So thank you. I'm going to call them up one by one. This is Jennifer Barnes. She is our special ed instructional coach and compliance coordinator. And she is my right-hand gal. This is Jennifer American, and she is our assistive technology coordinator. Deborah Finley, special education secretary. Alma Kleinfelter, Medicaid coordinator. Lindsay Binder, speech language pathologist. Janet Flores, school psychologist. And I want to forget Rachel over here, Rachel Covey, lead psychologist.
No.
Dr. Daniel Villara, board certified behavior analyst for the district. Andrea Johnson, my administrative assistant, my other right hand or my left hand, however you want to phrase that. And Kathleen Berg, occupational therapist, and Amy McVicker's physical therapist. Physical therapist. This is my crew, this is my family, these are my peeps, and I love them all, and we could not do this work without them.
I asked today to share with me how many people we have employed in our exceptional student services group, and what she gave me was we have 6 school psychologists, 2 occupational therapists, 1 physical therapist, 9 speech language pathologists, 2 certified behavior analysts, 6 office staff, 1 adaptive PE teacher, 37 teachers, and 59 paras. And we did recognize those paras a couple months ago.
Yes.
So anyway, I've been having our lead person tell us what their people do. I think this month you're just going to have to rely on their titles to figure out what they do, because if she starts telling us what they do, we will be here till tomorrow.
You'll have time for nothing else.
So, parents, do you appreciate the fact that our district is committed to providing all students with the services they need? Teachers, are you glad to know that your students have access to whatever support they need to allow them to learn and grow? And students, does it feel good to know there are people at school who are dedicated to exceptional students? All right. At this point, the governing board hereby declares April as Exceptional Student Services Month. Thank you all for everything that you do. Everybody,
Thank you.
thank you, guys. Thank you.
What a team, what a team.
I don't know. No, I don't think so. Yeah. I know. I will. Thank you. Congrats.
Kathy came down to say hi to you, but you were I can see it. Try not to put anything on the computer.
I just explained it all.
Thank you.
Yes, it does.
She's wonderful.
Well, it suddenly got a lot less crowded in here. All right. The next item on our agenda is our update from Taylor Hicks Elementary. So, Kelsey.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to share a little bit about what we're doing at Taylor Hicks right now. So the first question that you asked is, what is unique about Taylor Hicks? And to start, it's our round building. That kind of sets us apart from everybody else. And if you've ever walked through that, you'll get lost for maybe months, and that's okay. Just keep walking, you'll end up where you were. But what I did with these questions is I actually presented them to my staff, and I asked them to answer these. So these are all answers from all of the Taylor Hicks staff that you'll get. So our round building is unique, but that leads to a sense of humor and smooth teamwork. There is a feeling of family, that we all share the responsibility of our students to help them grow and succeed. There is a community feeling, the way the staff all jumps in to help out when needed. There is a sense of safety and feeling accepted by students, that is a feeling they express frequently, especially when they have been gone from school for a while. They're always excited to come back. Taylor Hicks is truly a community school in the district. Parents have gone here and now their kids. We have a mixed socioeconomic elementary schools of high-low and everything in between. All teachers care, are engaged. We have a large campus for activities inside and out, and we have specials every day of the week with a wide variety of opportunities for our kids. So all staff work together to meet the needs of our students and to have fun with them. I love our school and campus and the way this school is integrated right into the Prescott Heights neighborhood. The staff truly are a family. We genuinely care for one another, walk alongside each other, offering support, encouragement, and hugs as needed. We are there for each other. We can see past our personal differences to do what is best for our kids. And this is our family. We have seen each other through some of the happiest times and through some of the worst. So that is all from our staff, and I could not agree more. There was a lot more answers to these. All of them had something to do with family, community, a sense of belonging, and we're really proud of that. The next question you asked us was, how do you garner and use parent and family feedback? So one of the common things that you're going to hear through here is Class Dojo. That has really changed how we communicate with families this year, and I'll give you some statistics on that in just a second, but one teacher says, I use the Dojo app to share activities and easily send text-based messages to parents. Parents get to see photos of activities in the classroom from our classroom news feed, and it is easy for them to send me a quick question about homework, classroom activities, or other specific concerns. Parents have an easy, non-intimidating way to communicate with us. So each classroom has their own news feed that looks very similar to an Instagram, but it's only for those parents who sign up. So it's just it's a closed circuit. Class Dojo is a big piece of my parent communication. As for feedback, I take time to reflect on it constructively. I do my best to change any practices, procedures, routines that would be beneficial, or explain and educate a parent on why a system is in place and followed. One of my favorite comments is, with feedback, I take it to heart and I strive for better. That's the goal of feedback all the time. So I know that it is not personal and everyone has their own experiences they bring to the table. I make a point to be available as often as possible, even on personal time, and I can attest to that, they do, and be empathetic to individual situations. I communicate diligently in an Oreo model, so good news, bad news, and end with good news always, and make an effort to meet them at their comfort level. So some say we listen to all and do our best to improve in a positive manner, and parents feel very comfortable getting used to using this to reach out for help or to pass on information. I am able to quickly get information to parents or ask for feedback. And a lot of this is done through Dojo, through class meetings, anything like that, but I get an email every single week telling me what our communication was like on Class Dojo for that week. So just for last week, there were 388 individual messages that were sent home to parents. There were 20 stories shared, so that's a picture or something on their news feed. We can do that school-wide or classroom-based. They also can earn points, so students can earn points through Class Dojo. They get a little monster and it has their name on it, and they can earn points for lots of positive things. We tie it to all of our character lessons for the month. Last week there were 3,679 skills celebrated, and 87% of that feedback was positive. And so it's consistently right around those numbers. So there is lots of communication going home. I wish you would tell me how many times parents contacted us and reached out that way, but that's not information I have, but I know it's a lot. So they use that all the time. They can contact any of their children's teacher, but they can also contact me as well. So it's been really nice. And it's easy, it's just an app on their phone. It's just like text messaging back and forth. The next question that you asked was, what do you do to get new families and families off on the right foot, regardless of when they arrive? So each family is welcomed to our school, regardless of when they start. The students are met by staff who intentionally look them in the eye, asking them questions to get to know them, and welcoming them to Taylor Hicks. From the first moment, they are part of our school, which is a belief held by our staff and evidenced by interactions that take place. I spend a lot of time with students building a community that feels safe for sharing and learning. So with students, we practice procedures, talk about why a lot, and seek solutions to classroom problems together. Parents get weekly newsletters to keep them up to date on learning in the classroom. We immediately get new students and families connected with Class Dojo so they can see what's happening and they can get to know us through there. One teacher says, I remember what it's like to be new, and I make sure I pronounce their name correctly. I introduce myself and let them know what my class is about, since it's a special class. I also partner them with a reliable, friendly person. Another one says, we are sure to greet them, have supplies prepared for them, assign a buddy to help them navigate the first week, talk to families about communication methods offered at our school, and follow up on Class Dojo to see if any concerns have popped up. So you'll see communication is pretty important for our school, and a lot of that is, again, through Class Dojo. And then the last question is, how do you ensure high expectations for all students? And if you were able to see our trilateral goals, you'll see that high expectations are embedded within there. But one teacher said, capturing kids' hearts has played a large part in helping build a classroom community and leadership teams in my classroom. Having teams instead of jobs helps them hold them to a higher standards because of the camaraderie. Students keep data packets where they track their progress on benchmarks and power standards. This helps them take ownership of their learning. We also set goals not just for testing, but personal goals too. This might be something like write neatly or keep my supplies tidy, depending on where the students are and feel that they need to improve. They chose the goal, and we meet periodically to discuss how they are progressing. Another one says, I model those expectations in my own work and behavior daily. Another one says, I talk to them about their future, their dreams, their potential. With rigorous curriculum, having students set personal learning goals, and students tracking their growth data, we are ensuring high expectations to all. And last but not least, I don't let kids hide. I call on everybody all the time. I will differentiate my questions for kids and support kids in telling me their thoughts. But when kids come into my classroom, I think they know they are going to participate. I also make sure to reiterate that there is no such thing as a math person. All people can be great mathematical thinkers, and that doesn't mean they have to be fast. So that was just a few of the ways that we set high expectations for our kids. But any questions? Anything I can clarify for you?
Questions or comments?
Go ahead.
I just wondered, is Taylor Hicks full, or does it still have room to grow?
To grow? Yeah, I think as far as growth, we do have opportunities to move. We do have some classrooms that we could compact, but we also have a really large campus. So we do have the ability to add additional portables or build additional buildings if we ever needed to at any point. Yeah, we're pretty fortunate. We've got a large outdoor space, so.
It sounds like, and I know from the couple of times I've been on campus, they're like, your teachers have a real strong, close-knit bond amongst them.
Yep.
And that's evident from the answers you got. What would you say is the biggest day-to-day challenge that you have to face at Taylor Hicks?
Oh, that's a great question. I think post-COVID, it would be a little different than where we've been the last 2 years.
Sure.
But I think it's you have such a large team, it's just that consistency piece, keeping everybody on the same page. It takes a lot of time and a lot of conversations, and we're always doing that, but I feel like there's always room to improve. There's always things and routines and procedures that we can tighten. There's always rules that we can reinforce. So it's just continuing to have everybody stay on the same page moving forward, because that consistency is really important for all of our kids.
Including the students, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I appreciate you sending your trilateral goals, and I do look at them, really. I appreciate it. Some of the things I found that I particularly appreciated were seeing that you have a bank of resources for intervention and enrichment. I think having something at hand for both of those areas is really valuable and important. I was glad to see that you have incorporated in your goals the use of your interventionists. They don't do much good if we don't use them. So
they are used a lot. They're at the heart of our school, and they do so much for us, not just intervention, but they are constantly organizing materials and curriculum, leading data meetings. They're doing outdoor duty. They do a ton for our school, and we could not do what we do without them.
And they've turned math into an elective like PE. So the kids, they're excited to go.
Yep, they are.
And they do math games, and they're learning big time math.
They are.
Good stuff.
They're constantly
Kind
using.
of tricky though, but good stuff.
It is. Yes. Yeah. No, they have a great time. They know they're doing math, but it seems like it's a fun special. It's not the same as a math class for them.
The other thing I particularly appreciated was the comment, and you've reiterated it in your comments, about students self-monitoring. I think, we've seen the research that indicates how valuable that is in keeping kids motivated and moving forward. So I was really glad to see that there too.
Yeah, and that's been a district focus. Since Advanced
Yeah.
Ed came and we did our accreditation, that was one of the pieces of feedback that they did give us, and we took that to heart. And so a lot of our teachers are finding ways that students can take more ownership of what they're learning and of their data. And we're seeing that even kindergarten students can do that. It seemed a little impossible when we first started, but they are more than capable, and they can tell you what they need and what they want moving forward. And it's been really powerful to watch all of our K-4 students be able to do that.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kelsey. Anything else? Sarah?
I'm just impressed and intrigued by the class dojo. I heard it come up not just in how you get that feedback back and forth, but also even getting new families on board and new students. I'm curious, you mentioned this is the first year, correct?
The
That
first year
you've been
we've done
using-
it school-wide. So we've
Okay.
had teachers who were doing it in pockets, but it's the first year we decided we're going to all commit to this so that all of our students, regardless of what grade that they're in, families just have one app and one communication method. We were always trying phone calls and email, and it was very hit or miss. Some parents were good with phone calls, some were good with email, but what we're finding is most all of them are good with text messaging, and that's really the system that this uses.
Great. So is the plan to continue to use that next year?
Yes.
And are you all, like, you cited those statistics. Are you all pleased with those statistics? Do you want to see communication grow? Like, what does that look like?
I mean, yes, for year one, I'm really happy with those statistics, but I think there's always room to grow and improve. So I would love to see more of those stories being added and really aligned to what kids are doing as far as their learning in their classroom. Right now, it tends to be more of the fun activities, but sending more individualized about student work and student progress so parents can really have an eye into the classroom without actually being there during the day.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kelsey.
You're welcome. Thank you,
Appreciate
guys.
you coming.
Yep.
All right. The next thing, this month, we asked to find out a little bit more about what the district is doing in terms of college and career planning for students. So we'll start with Andy Binder from Mile High.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for asking us to share a little bit about what we're doing at the middle school, and I know the high school is going to be sharing a little bit here next. But this is actually a topic that I think is incredibly important. It's a topic that I felt like we really needed to strengthen a little bit at the middle school level a few years ago, and I feel like we've definitely taken some steps to get there. I feel like middle school is the perfect time to just get them thinking about their future. And so, all right, which one do I do? There we go. This is something that I've presented before. This is kind of the big 4 areas that we like to focus on at our school. I'm not going to go over all of it, but positive culture, recognizing all the different needs of kids, academic achievement, and of course this future-focused one will be kind of the focus of tonight. But this idea, again, that middle school is a time we can get them thinking about the future, whether that's high school, whether that's beyond high school, college, career, lots of different ways we do that. So the biggest thing we do is trying to connect our content of all classes to future careers. This is something I hope all teachers and all schools do, of course. It really comes out in some of our elective or our explorative courses, which a lot of these are, but of course in any subject, hopefully they're thinking about their content, they're talking to the kids about why it's relevant for their future, and that's really what we want kids at this level or all levels to be doing, is to be taking what they're learning, having the teachers to be thinking about what the content is and how it could apply in the future. So that's the biggest thing, even though it doesn't always get the most attention when it comes to college and career. Something you've probably heard both from Mile High and other schools, but some of our culture programs, which often people don't think about that as something about their future, but capturing kids' hearts is all about getting to know the kids, having kids get to know each other and their teachers. Really, the idea behind it, though, if once teachers better understand their students, really get to know their interests and their backgrounds, then they can use that information to better design lessons that can connect to their future. So that's something with capturing kids' hearts. Kids at Hope is something that, while we don't use that term a lot and really talk about it, it's something that we want all teachers and all staff to really be thinking about. Again, part of Kids at Hope is thinking about their future as well. There's these 4 big areas. This is an area that our life skills classes focus on a little bit more, getting kids just to think, okay, in those 4 areas, education and career is just one of them, but also their hobbies, their home life, their community, and so something, again, beyond just what college are they going to go to or what career are they interested in. Probably the biggest change we made a couple years ago was we shifted our life skills classes. We actually added 7th grade life skills and an 8th grade life skills. The 7th grade does a lot of what on that last slide, getting them thinking about how to, we kind of joke, it's how to survive middle school a little bit. We figured develop some skills that they can develop good habits, a couple listed there. But they do start getting into, again, what careers they might be interested in. How does that connect to what they're learning? The bigger focus, though, is in our 8th grade life skills class. The 8th grade life skills class spends a good amount of time during it's a semester-long class, getting them thinking about the future. I'm going to show you a quick little video here in a second, but in that video, the teacher talks about, for 8th graders, their future is high school, at least their immediate future. So that's a big focus. But we do use Naviance, which some of you are familiar with. It's an online program where they get to look at different careers that are out there. They do some different career projects related to that. They connect that to whether it's a career path or college path. And so they also do, we do a lot with the high school to make sure that we're collaborating. We have the academic counselors come on over, talk about what classes would really be the best fit depending on the student's needs. We have the department chairs all come over. We had that about a month ago now to introduce all the different things that the high school offers. So that's definitely something we want to continue that partnership with. And college visits, unfortunately, we haven't had a college visit in a couple years now. We had one planned. We thought we were going to be able to do it, but we had it scheduled for back in November, and that was a rough time on the COVID front. So, but we're definitely looking forward to bringing our 8th graders to a couple of the different colleges. We've partnered, or we've communicated with NAU, ASU, Embry-Riddle, and Yavapai College, and so those are the ones that we've been trying to partner with the most. So I'm going to have you see this video. This is Catherine Vandermark. She is our 8th grade life skills teacher.
Everyone, I'm Kat Vandermark. I am the life skills teacher for the 8th grade at Prescott Mile High Middle School. And I was really excited when Mr. Binder told me that you all wanted to hear some more about the college and career readiness work that we do through the life skills class. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. In 8th grade, I really focus on high school preparation and students using how they're thinking about high school to dovetail them right into getting ready for college and making sure their high school track prepares them for that appropriately. And then we also look at their first job. So not necessarily career with a capital C, though we do explore their interests as far as career pathways go as well. But really, what are the skills and preparedness that they need to get that first job, maybe while they're in high school or right outside of? So that's sort of the overview of how we think about our college and career prep for the 8th graders. And one of the tools that is an absolute guiding resource through all of our college and career readiness work is Naviance. Naviance has been an excellent tool. We use it in a number of different ways. The students start out by exploring kind of who they are and answers to what become initial interview questions. Tell me about yourself. What are some of your skills and strengths? What are some things that you're interested in? At the beginning of the semester in life skills, most students don't have answers to those questions. So we use Naviance's personality, strengths, and performance assessments to help them really get a self-understanding of who they are, what their inherent skills and strengths are, and then some of their learning styles so that they can support their academic work with effective study habits and so on. We also use this personality, strengths, and skills data in their group dynamics and team building. And then we loop it right into writing their first resumes, applying for their first jobs, and planning for high school and college. So I focus on the development of what I would call universal job skills, things that students are going to need kind of no matter what field or career they end up going into. So some of those are professionalism and academic etiquette. Students are held to a high standard of conduct and verbal and written communication when it comes to both of these skills throughout life skills. They practice organization and accountability, self-confidence, and teamwork through a number of different activities and units throughout life skills. There we go. So, as I said before, I really want to focus students in on their next chapter. What is the next step that they're going to take as 8th graders so that they can build skills that will help them with that as they also plan for the long term as far as college and career. So students do a big section in preparing for high school. They get really excited about this transition. We use Naviance to support them in exploring different pathways for career and study. They learn about the credit system and how to make sure that they're on track to be ready applicants when it comes time to apply for college. And they get a lot of opportunity to advocate for themselves by being encouraged to network with their academic advisors at the high school, peers, and teachers. Again, the next step we take is getting students ready to apply for their first job. So again, not necessarily the long-term career, though they're encouraged to think about that throughout our semester together. But what is the job that they're going to work while they're maybe a student in high school or right after? So students learn how to write a resume that takes all of that data we gathered from Naviance about who they are, their skills and strengths. They conduct a real job search. They learn how to do that, look for jobs that are available right now for people their age. And then they conduct mock interviews with one another to practice some of those public speaking skills, professionalism, and etiquette. When Mr. Binder told me about this opportunity to speak to you all about life skills and our job readiness, these two students came to mind right away. So these are two students who have actually taken our job readiness work and put it in action in the community just in the last couple of weeks. Both Toby and Ben have applied for and achieved jobs in the community using their resumes that they built in life skills. And they gave me some fun feedback about what it was like to, for real, go out and talk to adults, apply for a job, market themselves, and they've both been really successful and really courageous in their endeavors. So I wanted to close out with them, and please take a moment to read their quotes about their experience. Again, my name's Kat Vandemark, and thank you for taking the time and the interest to learn about this. I'm always available for questions.
All right, so that is our 8th grade life skills there. And so like I was saying before, I think really using middle school as a time to start the process of thinking about this, and I definitely want our students to, by the time they're leaving 8th grade, to have some good thought and have some ideas around it. So any questions about the middle school level?
What percentage of 8th graders do you think, or maybe even 7th graders, are out working, like actually obtain a job like those students did?
I would say probably up to 10%.
Okay.
Probably less than 10, yeah.
Okay.
So it's not that common for students at this level to be going out. I think they're starting with family jobs, working for family and friends and things like that. But actually going out beyond that is pretty rare.
Okay.
Before COVID, Andy, I came to Mile High one time when the kids
Yes.
were in the gym and they'd each
Yeah, our
looked
career
up
day.
a career.
Yes.
And I could go around and talk to the kids about the career they'd chosen, and I was so impressed with how thorough they were, and they knew exactly what it would take and so on. Are they still doing that?
They are. We didn't do the career day this year, but they're still doing the research projects that were behind that. Yeah, so that was definitely fun. Yeah, each student researched a career, found out all the details behind it, and then we did this kind of open house where visitors walked around and interviewed them and talked about what their background was and everything. So
It was great fun to see the careers they picked.
yes.
I just wanted to share that one of the current 8th grade students that have gone through that life skills process did obtain a job, and recently he was sharing that experience, and like having seen him grow up from tiny, the confidence building, like I love the focus not on career with a capital C readiness, but instead those self-advocacy, confidence, professionalism skills building, because it's made a world of difference. Like he's not going to be washing dishes maybe for the rest of his life, but to see that change and the work, to see the direct connection to Mile High Middle School and the work you're doing is really powerful. So
Okay.
thank you for helping prepare
Yeah, thank you for
those
sharing
students.
that.
How would
Hearing
you
that.
How would you say, how strong is like the, what do we call it, the audio visual, the TV class that you basically have for your kids, where they produce and
Yeah.
and put the daily show out every morning? Courses like that you have at Mile High, how are they brought in together with your career readiness program?
Yeah,
And do the kids, are some of those kids, they take that class and they say, I'm going to be a TV producer when I grow up, and that's their path then?
So yeah, going back to the slide where I had the different pictures, that's the idea of really making sure when we're looking at course offerings, especially for those electives, to be thinking about classes that can have a future impact. And so yeah, the broadcasting class, I know the teachers in there talk a lot about these are skills that are directly applicable after, this is not just a project you're doing in class, that they're making sure that we're using the software that the professionals use and things like that, so they can apply it, go out and get a job editing videos and things like that. Industrial arts, of course, is one that gets talked a lot. There's a lot of jobs out there for people, wanting to be a welder or work in wood shop or things like that. So we really want to make sure that those connections are made with all those courses.
Yeah. It was really impressive. I know when I visited that class that one morning, that was
Yeah, they do a
awesome.
really good job.
what they were doing.
Do all 7th graders and 8th graders take the life skills? Is it like a mandatory?
I would say 90% or more. Yeah, we structured it so almost every 7th grader and almost every 8th grader. There's a few situations where, because every student takes 2 explorative classes every day, and sometimes there's situations that they're in band and choir, or if they have a learning center and things like that. There's a few situations where they can't, but most students take it, both 7th and 8th grade.
Thanks,
All right,
Andy.
thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll hand it over to Leland and Mr. Scott.
All right, so first of all, like to say thank you to Mr. Binder, not only for sharing all this information, but as you can tell, he is doing everything he can to prepare our middle school students to step in and be successful at high school. And so one of our amazing academic advisors here, Molly Luttrell, and I are going to go through and talk about what it looks like at the high school level. And I don't know that no matter how much information we offer you, we will be able to do justice just how much we do to prepare kids for what happens after high school. That is really our mission in a lot of ways, is to meet them where they are and help them be prepared for what's next. So we're going to take you through some of the exciting things that I think we can give you some details on and show you some more about. But simply put, I think Prescott High School in a lot of ways is truly about whatever comes next for our students and preparing them. And so you're going to see all sorts of options that we have to offer them. Ms. Luttrell?
Lower the mic a little bit here. Yeah, just to piggyback on what Adam was saying. Can I have that?
I'll do this.
When we were tasked with this, it was like, ooh, how do we kind of narrow it down? Because really, I think every decision we make, from curriculum to, just everything that we do at the high school really is centered on how do we prepare our kids for what's next. So we did our best. Just to share a couple of things. Our mission is to provide a safe and supportive environment that fosters a comprehensive education for all students so that they may reach their full potential. PHS mission. Philosophy. Together we are dedicated to providing our youth who will assume future stewardship of the community and the nation with quality resources, methods, and programs, thus enabling them to become responsible, productive, and involved citizens. With this in mind, we have made college and career prep a trilateral school goal, and it drives what we do each day. So, a couple of the things that we wanted to kind of point out. Freshman Academy is a class that we've been doing for, I believe, 3 years now. It takes the Naviance app, and it kind of furthers what they've done with it in the life skills classroom, doing more of those interest inventories. They can continue to do those to figure out like what's changed in the last year, as things do when you go from middle school to high school. Taking those interest inventories, exploring careers, etc. Our English 12 curriculum, yeah, is that why she's here? Is she presenting that?
No,
piece?
no.
Just
She's here for
coincidence?
something else. We just got
Oh,
lucky.
sweet. Okay. So you can ask her some questions, but just last year they started incorporating a career, a semester of career, like job skills, interview skills. I got to sit on the interview panel, which was, super fun. Business Tech Math is a math class geared for seniors who are really ready to kind of catapult into the world of work, career, that kind of thing. And so it helps them to know the math skills needed to be independent adults. Our JROTC class does a lot of the same things: career exploration, interview skills, some campus visits. Our FACS class, Life Connections, is again geared toward those independent living skills. And then we have the child development class as well that helps them, learn some of those, how to be a responsible adult with children in their care type of thing. We've also been doing the AmeriCorps teaching experience, where some seniors are given the opportunity to visit one of these other schools in the district 2 hours a day. As a student ambassador, they can earn some college credit from it, grant money, resume. It's an amazing program where they get to be, that mentor to some younger students, and so they get a lot out of it, as well as the students that they get to be involved with. College level courses, I'm proud to say we offer quite a few. Advanced placement, hopefully you're aware, is a nationalized curriculum through the College Board with the end of year exam. We offer a ton, as you can see, in different areas: English, math, social studies, science, and then our 2 elective psychology and the AP art portfolio class. With dual enrollment with Yavapai College, we have the English 101, which is a Arizona Board of Regents approved curriculum through Yavapai College, but taught on our campus, which is a really nice thing for students to get that experience and walk into college with. My own 2 daughters took these classes, and they were able to get like over a semester's worth of credits through AP and dual enrollment during their time at PHS, which, as you know, saves a ton of time and money and gives them some amazing experience. So, so we had the Englishes and the Maths, the modern languages with Spanish, and then CTE, of course, is also dual enrollment. So, but it's so massive that we had to make it its own slide. So if you just look over that, it's pretty incredible. The ones here on the left are the ones that are on the PHS campus that we have to offer. I don't know if you want to look at that and just ask, like, what is, fashion design has been a class that we've had at PHS for a while, but it just became like CTE certified in the last year or two, right?
This year.
Yeah, just this year. Yeah. Software app and development coming soon. So we're hitting like coding and some of those software apps, hitting those pretty hard. The ones on the right are offered through Yavapai College, different campuses like the CTech one out by the airport, the medical one in Prescott Valley, etc. So they're pretty amazing programs. If you have not participated in the CTED or CTech field trip day when students go out, it is incredible the programs they have to offer where students can, if they choose to, take 2 years of some of these courses and be industry certified by the time they're done. And it's pretty, and one of the guys that teaches at the CTech was an automotive instructor, but also welding certified. And he told the students how, he does his teaching gig here at CTech through the school year, but in Alaska, he goes up for a month and makes almost his year's salary in welding, So so there's just opportunities for kids across all the spectrum. So it's pretty exciting. So do you have any questions about these or anything before we move on? I know it's a lot. Yeah.
Molly, what is the school doing to try to promote the use of these classes, particularly the ones off campus? Because I know that's the hardest sell.
So we just had the CTech campus day where we took, about 50 students, I think. Right. They were invited, freshmen and sophomores. Typically, those programs are for sophomores and above. Mm-hmm. You want, you're taking college credits, so you want to make sure you're kind of ready for that. So they were invited to attend that field trip specifically. When we register students, we go through the options of all of the, we can explain not just the core classes as well as the electives. We explain all those options. And we'll kind of see it on the advising page, but every time we meet with a student, we discuss kind of what is your goal? What do you want? What are you looking to do? And then that's where these individualized conversations can come up about those as well.
Terrific.
They also get a lot of that in Freshman Academy. Part of Freshman Academy is what do we have to offer at Prescott High School. And so Mr. Ortiz, our CTE director, will go in and do a presentation to those kids. In fact, he does a couple during that first semester where he goes through and tells them about all these options so they have a better understanding before it's time to make that choice so they can start thinking about what they want to do.
Yeah. And then advisement obviously is a huge piece of that. From pre-enrollment, 8th grade through, senior year, we are constantly going through the goal setting, having those conversations with students, making sure that when they build their schedules each year, it helps to further them toward whatever goal it is that they are looking to do, whether that is a college, Yavapai College, four-year college, out-of-state college, or to propel them into whatever career fits their skills and their interests and what makes them happy. I can read all those, or if you have any questions about any of those specifically. Yeah.
I have a question. So under post-secondary planning, so for those college-bound students, maybe they're a potential first-generation college student. They don't know what the process is like. Getting in to see an advisor and an appointment might be difficult. Sometimes they're booked and busy. Is there any thought about putting together a class maybe that would help parents and students understand the college process, understand what a credit hour is, understand financial aid options, understand the applications, how to choose a school? There's so many different factors that go into that. I know they can get that with individual advising, but is there any thought about doing a class that could gather those students together and kind of build on that?
So this is my third year as academic advisor, and my first year ended, with us shutting down due to COVID. So things have
Yeah.
changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
I know there have been nights like that in the past, and I believe junior night, which we are kind of bringing back / kind of updating, if you
Okay.
will, is going to help a lot with that in terms of here's what you're going to need to start doing for next year. And so typically we actually did that more early in the fall as seniors, and we realized that's actually not helping at that
junior.
time. So doing it now, I think it's May 2nd, helps parents and students know here are some of the things you want to keep in mind. Now is a really good time to start thinking about what school you want to, doing a tour, that kind of thing. Here's the process. Here's what financial aid is going to look like.
Okay.
So the junior night, I think, is going to fit that bill fairly well.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, so, with the culmination of all these things, here's some pretty awesome statistics that 88% of our students attend a 2 or 4 year school after graduating from high school. 12% enlist in the military workforce mission or technical school. And we've still, during post-COVID, our students got $7.9 million in scholarships, which is pretty awesome. So, questions?
Well, thank you for your presentation, and I just have a question. One thing I didn't see explicitly in the presentation, though I'm sure maybe you can elaborate on, is just the whole financial situation for folks leaving high school. Certainly college and higher education in general loads us up with debt, or has the potential to load us up with debt, and that has trended in one direction over the last decade. So I'm curious what PHS is doing, not only to assist and help educate seniors by way of what that financial landscape looks like for them going to college, but also even just personal finances and housing, et cetera.
So in terms of maybe not necessarily, I would say if you're not necessarily 4-year college bound, you're probably going to take that business tech math, and that is going to focus hugely on budgeting, loans, interest, taxes, maybe even so all of those independent living math skills that a student is going to need. I know that the Life Connections class does some of that as well. Do you have more on that?
I just would tell you one other thing here, which is that we are even currently looking into a program with Yavapai College called Early College, where we could potentially have students going over and spending their senior year at Yavapai. So I think the point is that when you look at the big picture, we are trying to do everything we possibly can to meet our kids' needs, no matter what their current situation is. But that is a really good point. We definitely have some of those financial literacy challenges that we've got to continue to embed in different spots. So whether that shows up in economics, whether it shows up in a business tech math, whether that shows up in an English 12 when they're talking about career, there still could be some of those pieces around, maybe not the numbers portions, but an understanding of what that means. Life skills across the board. We're really trying to focus heavily on teaching those skills that kids need to be successful. That is the idea, is to get them ready for what's next. And if they don't have the skills to walk out into the world, then we potentially have some challenges.
Sarah, part of your question, if I can address it as well, having been at the high school the last several years and having been a parent of a senior last year, our daughter, I think, was well served by particularly the academic advisement department. They do a lot of sharing information about scholarships and helping kids through the application process, et cetera. Our daughter's a freshman at a challenging private university right now. She's got a ton of money in the bank. She received, I can't remember, $11,000 or $12,000 in scholarships in addition to tuition scholarship at the university that she's at. And a lot of that I credit to the work that was done at the high school by Molly, her academic advisor, and Mrs. Anderson, who's has the main responsibility over scholarship advertisement and information and whatnot. And she certainly was not alone. A lot of kids, the kids who push themselves and are focused most on university, have the opportunity to set themselves up well, not only academically prepared, but to be financially well prepared for college as well. So great question. That was our family's experience.
We do have a monthly scholarship newsletter that has a lot, and it's in the bulletin, goes to our seniors. There's a lot of good information there too.
This may be as much to you as to you, but what, are we getting feedback from the community about what kinds of jobs they have that need to be filled so that, you know, not that we want to lock our kids in here, but so that if a kid wants to stay here, he knows what things are needed.
I think that's a challenge for our community still. You know, we hear from the development community or the construction community, and there's a lot of those jobs available, and a lot of our kids are wanting to go and jump into college and that type of thing. A lot of our kids leave town and don't come back. For me, that's a conversation I've been having with the community for a decade, but it's probably been happening for 50 years. How do we create those positions and jobs in town? You know, and being a part of the chamber and a part of the community in a lot of ways, we're all working together to draw, especially a lot of technology here. We've had some success with that as a community recently, but I think it remains a challenge, Deb. And Adam, you might add to that.
Yeah,
a lot of our
I would
kids
tell
are
you that-
university bound. A lot of our kids are university bound more than most high schools anywhere.
Very true, very true. And I would tell you that I think our CTE director is doing a great job with trying to reach out and find out more of that information. That was one of the goals we set when he started this year, was to get some of that community outreach and find out more, not only about, you know, what's available in the community, but how we can connect our students to those opportunities as we get going. So I mean, you know, what that looks like down the road, I think is endless, because we might have opportunities to create stuff that used to exist where, you know, students would, you know, get credit for being in the workforce during parts of their day. I mean, we really have opportunity to get back to some of those pieces.
So we have 88% attending 2-year or 4-year colleges. Do we have 88% proficient in math and reading?
You know, I would say no, but I would be honest with you, that is a tough measurement, because what is proficient in math and reading? I mean, when we're looking at our state test, today was ACT day at the high school, so it was a wild day. I'm hoping that we can really get some measurements from those tests that we took today, because it's the first time in a while where we've really had a real opportunity to measure that. We obviously do that with Galileo and our standards-based assessments. I don't know that 88%, but again, remember that we're talking about 2 or 4 year. It's splitting pretty much between what was it, Molly, 40?
It was pretty close, like
It was
45 and 43 or something. Yeah.
So it almost an even split, and again, you know, it just depends on what that student's looking towards, but I would say that we are doing well. Could we do better? I sure hope so. I mean, we're always going to be looking to improve on that.
I'd like to see us get them academically improved, and in part of this for college and career readiness. I mean, academics are, I see a lot of mention of the social and getting, you know, how to work together, but I don't see any academics in this program. I don't know if that's not what it's.
In what program?
In your presentation.
Oh, well, I mean, I think
Well,
the
okay,
advanced
Yeah, it's
Right.
not what we were
Right.
focusing on.
These kids that are in advanced placement, these are not the kids that are going to be below grade level.
Oh, I
mean,
understand what you're saying. Okay, I got you.
These are the high kids. You know, where are you helping the other kids?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, every day their schedule is built on the idea to make sure we're meeting their academic needs. But we also want to, as we get 11th and 12th graders, we want to prepare them for whatever happens to be their next step. And so for some of them, that includes math class, English class, you know, taking their core subjects, but also stepping out and going, I'm interested in animation. And so that's where we get those cross-curricular
Are
opportunities
the
and connections.
CTEs, are those all electives, or do they count as core classes? Some of them?
These all happen to be electives. We do have some that kind of merge some of those things. Like I tell you, you know, we offer a science that's an engineering course. So that would kind of merge some of these topics. I think we have a lot of these options that kind of sit in between the two. But then also these are specifically those CTE courses.
And they have programs and requisites to get you to a certification that includes all of that math. So, I mean, we can definitely dive in deeper to this to show the pathways. These all
Yes,
have pathways.
absolutely.
These all have pathways that include different sets of math that qualify you for these different career placements. So,
Well, and along those lines, those 88% have to meet academic
Right.
requirements to make it into those 4-year and 2-year schools.
So 88% go on to a 2 or 4-year school. Do we have any means for determining how many of them complete those?
You know, that's something that
Programs.
actually Mr. Howard and I had a real recent conversation about, because we're very interested in taking that next step to be able to collect that and find out.
ASU's putting a database together where we're tracking kids and where they go and what they do, way beyond what we've ever been able to do. So we're looking into how
Okay.
to tie up with ASU and partner with that.
It's really been self-reporting data previously,
Yeah,
and I just don't
yeah,
know that that's
it's
as
hard.
powerful as what we could get if we could actually track them through their, whatever their secondary career is.
It's extensive. It will even be able to track kids back to their middle school. So Andy Binder will be able to get on and find out what his middle school kids did years
Yeah.
later. So
Okay.
very extensive.
All right.
I do have one. So we've heard from Rachel Chungalo about the future of how we may be able to continue with some remote learning, particularly for high school students, and just how that opens up other opportunities when it comes to career readiness, like working.
Right.
So I'm curious, you alluded at like giving credit for time spent in the workforce.
Right.
What are some of the things on the future related to the ability to have that sort of hybrid?
Well, the hybrid schedule, I would describe that we've already got kids, clamoring to meet those types of scenarios where they want to have certain classes online and they want certain things in person. That could look as simple as, I'm online, but I come to be an orchestra for the band. But it also could be exactly what you're talking about, which is I take my core courses in the morning online and I go off into the workforce. I think we have to get creative, but again, that comes from solid direction, from connections with CTE and connections with partnerships in the community that we can build on. I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but again, I want us to look at this and go, we have a future of continuing to build towards wherever our kids are going to head, whether that is a student looking to go on to a university and we have to get them to that level, or it's a student stepping into the workforce and we have to prepare them with those skills. And again, or something in between, right? We know that kids, I think Mr. Tenney made the joke the other day about paying for freshman year while his daughter changes her major a few times, right? We know that this is life exploration, but if we give them the skills to be successful, then we're doing our part and setting them up for success beyond Prescott High School.
Mr. Moore and I ran into a student that was one of his students long ago the other day, and she was working at a new restaurant in town, and she said, I can work because I go to PUSD everywhere. And then she said, and I play softball. And that's why we created PUSD everywhere. And we're early in the stages, so we were surprised to hear that. But we are setting up a commercial with that young lady. So. Stay tuned.
It was like the perfect student on what we wanted.
Yeah, we were like,
Yeah.
would you do a commercial?
I love it.
What's it pay? All right, any other questions for Adam and Molly? Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, the next item on the agenda is our summary of current events. Joe, anything?
Well, you can kind of feel in the presentations, if you can feel that energy. We've got some good things happening in the schools right now. And if you need more evidence, I urge you to go visit a school right now, because our teachers and staff have left not only COVID behind, but the politics all around it as well. And we're doing school big time, and we're doing all of the other things that we wrap around our public schools. So just a couple examples. Well, first, this is your Europe trip that y'all approved last in March. And they had a great time over spring break, so we wanted to share a few pictures, and they wanted to extend their thank you to you. Later tonight, we have a piece on Japan in 2023. So, and then we had our first dance in 2 years at Mile High Middle School. And Mr. Binder looks like he didn't lose any sleep or anything.
This
Miss Roberts even danced on Blue Tree.
All right. So, you know what? Middle school dances. I mean, if you've never been to one, you should go. But that's our norm, and it's so great to get back to that norm. That happened on Friday, April 1st. Lots of events to look at here. The first one is the Pups. That's our Discovery Garden gang, and they've got a graduation and field day coming up. I just wanted to give you some examples. I won't share all these, but prom. Here comes prom, a normal prom. And Mr. Bradstreet, you maybe saw in the newspaper, he's heading out along with his wife Kelly, and it's going to be his last concert. He's invited a handful of his old students back to come and share that. So if you could show up to that one, it'd be fun. Our seniors are going to parade through the elementary schools again. That's a huge favorite. And board, I would invite you to hop on the bus with us, or even hop from school to school, or at least see that at one school. It's a wonderful thing to see seniors interface with K-12 kids, pre-K-12 kids. One of my favorite things. And then graduation, we'll get you as a board details on your role on the 27th. But then Mile High's got some carnivals and celebrations, of course. Granite, they've got their 5th grade camp up at Mingus coming up, and end of the year awards. Our spring fling at Lincoln, that's another great one to just stop by and see, that great hometown school atmosphere. Abaya Judd, it'll be bittersweet. We're saying goodbye to Mrs. Hillig, but we've got the Poetry Palooza and Field Day heading over to Granite Mountain. And then the Bobcats, who had, is Kelsey still here? They had their first assembly in 2 years today, and they rocked it. So they've got a field day, and don't miss the annual kickball game. But just to show you, this is how we operate really every day. We have stuff like this happening all the time. This is just scratching the surface, but certainly invite our community to all these things, and as always, our board. So we're happy to be in our groove, doing what we do.
Anything from the board? I had a great visit to the high school last week. Roamed from classroom to classroom. I went to one classroom, and it was like a minute before the bell rang. And I stepped in the doorway, and I was surrounded. And what I said to the kids was, I'm going to bet that if I'm here 2 minutes from now, I'm going to get run over. And they assured me that was true. But we had a lovely conversation over it, so. I will also be Thursday attending a program put on by the Uppike College Justice Institute on child abuse that I know a number of our staff will be attending. So I'm hopeful that will be a good program. So, okay, moving on. We move to the consent agenda. Are there any questions, comments on anything that's on the consent agenda this time?
I just want to point out the huge amount of experience that we're losing in these end-of-year resignations. So many long-time educators, so thank you. I know Kelly's here, and to you and Dan and to Terry Pemberton, but just there's so many. I mean, I can't even express how many of them that are long-time educators. So thank you to all those folks.
Well, and bless you for sticking it out till now.
Can I make a quick comment on that? From the HR standpoint, it's absolutely the case. We're losing 5 or 6 folks who have just been institutions in PUSD over the years, and they're irreplaceable. We'll find their successors, but they'll never be replacements for people like Kelly and Dan Bradstreet, Stephanie Hillig, and Terry Pemberton, et cetera. That said, our overall turnover is phenomenal. I was talking with one of the leaders in a neighboring district just this week and asked, how's your turnover? 30%, that's not healthy. 15 to 20 is pretty healthy. We're 15 last year, roughly, which is on the low end of healthy. We're doing great. Arizona statewide, as you know, is tough. We don't need to dive back into that, but there's a teacher crisis in Arizona. We're super, super healthy here. You see a lot of names there, but what you don't see is the hundreds of names of people who are staying. Our Our overall turnover, we've just gotten our contracts back, so we know who's going to be here next year and who's not. We have 26 of 206 teachers leaving, so it's a 12% turnover rate. That's phenomenal, particularly post-COVID. A lot of people have said, I'm out. I've done this long enough. I'm already getting paid less than any other state in the union, and then we have all this other stuff coming from the legislature. Get me out of here. But not in PUSD. It's amazing. Here's a statistic that you probably don't want to share too widely because it's one of those knock on wood kind of things. We don't want to jinx it, but we have 46 teachers, K through 4, in PUSD. So not music teachers or SPED teachers, but classroom teachers. Of those 46 teachers, every single one is coming back next year. 46. Our teacher turnover, yeah, unbelievable is the word for it. It's unbelievable. We have a terrific culture in our district and people want to be here. The moves that the board has made over the last couple of years, trying to increase salaries and get closer to the state average, have made a huge difference for us, we've found, as we've recruited and as we've retained as well. The retention bonuses that you approved, it's been 2 months ago, last month as well, were very popular with people. I had a lot of people say, I was on the fence. I always look every year at other opportunities, but when you told me, hey, if you're here next year, you'll get this $1,500, that made the difference for me. So our turnover is phenomenal this year. We're going to be doing a lot less hiring than usual. So are we losing some terrific people? Absolutely, no question. Oh my gosh. And they're irreplaceable, literally. But our turnover is something special in PUSD every year, and particularly this year. So thanks for what you do to make that the case.
And when have we begun to hire?
We ought to get going on that pretty soon. No, great question. We've already made 8 hires, and there's several other offers that have been made to people already. So getting on top of that early is terrific. Some of our leadership hires, we're meeting this Friday to get with the folks who we've narrowed it down to 6 interviewees, I believe, for Kelly's job. We're excited about that. We've got some internal folks, external folks, and we've got committees set up for Director of Instructional Support, of course, AJ Principal, for Director of IT, some of the leadership positions where we're going to be replacing. And then principals are busy every single day finding great folks. One of the things I think is special, Mr. Neely, you might want to comment on this if you can. There's 8 folks in the math department, and math is some place where we always lose people. They realize, wait, I don't have to stand in front of cranky kids all day long. I do math. I could do something else. I can make donuts or anything. So we lose people to math teachers all the time. We lost 4 of our 9, I think, math teachers at the high school this year. Mr. Neely found the 4 people that he wanted within like 2 weeks. We had a ton of people apply. They want to come to Prescott. It's a great place to be. So we're super happy about the low level of turnover and about the folks that we found already. Thanks for asking.
Okay.
I had 2 things. One, for Clark, you had a list of tentative people for the principal to go, the board to go over the principal, to hire the principal.
Oh, yeah, a search committee for, AJ Principal.
Committee.
Yes, yes.
Is there any way you could, it just seemed a little AJ teacher heavy, could we put like a few more parents or a board member on there, or, something? So it seemed kind of like the teachers were hiring we're interviewing for the boss.
Yeah, the short answer to that is yes. So there's 12 people on the committee, and you're exactly right. Of those 12, 5 of them are teachers. So statistically speaking, I wouldn't think that's super heavy. But what we're interested in is the stakeholders that person will be working with over the years. So we have 3 teachers on that committee, and there's 2 classified staff and 5 teachers and myself and one of the other principals. If there's a board member who's interested in being part of that as well, we could always add number 13. That sounds lucky to me.
Okay. And then I just had a question on the last one, Yavapai County Educational Service.
I can talk a little bit to that. So our Title III is specifically for our English language learners, and we're part of a consortium in which the Yavapai County Education Service Agency helps manage. I think there's 5 districts or 5, some are sole schools, are part of the consortium. So Sherry Sterling helps with the ADE compliance and the budgetary process. Jeff Lane used to be the consortium representative, and Nicole Peterson was that person this year. And so it's something that we've done for a while, and it's a yearly renewal.
I get what it is and why it is, but like Snowflake Unified District, that's not even in Yavapai County.
We're not making decisions nor having any purchasing for any of those schools. It's essentially the YCESA helping our district and those other independent districts with the compliance aspects of Title III grant. So
Oh, so we don't have our own grant people that could do this?
we do.
Is there a benefit to doing it with this?
There is. The benefit is that Title III is complicated and there's lots of changes at the ADE when it comes to the model that we have to use. And so Sherry Sterling, who is at the county, is well versed in Title III. And so having a partnership with them and having a second pair of eyes on a very complex compliant grant is never a bad thing.
We've probably done it for a decade.
Yes,
I don't
at
know, it
least
just
till
seems
the
like an odd
2000s.
group of,
If all
schools
5 of
together.
them besides us dropped out, it would not affect our relationship with the Education Service Agency for Yavapai.
gotcha.
I also, under the consent agenda, would point out that we had a value of $11,515 in donations again this month. So once again, thank you to the community for their support. Appreciate that very much. Anything else on the consent agenda? Could I get a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I move that we accept the consent.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Right?
Motion passes. All right. We are moving on now to our study and voting session. Sarah, were there any requests to speak? No. All right. First item is considering the adoption of a new English language arts curriculum. Kelly?
How exciting. This is like a Super Bowl for me. So what we're here to do is propose the curriculum that we're recommending as a committee, and I'll be calling them up here in just a minute. Core Knowledge Language Arts by Amplify for 5th grade, Amplify ELA for 7th and 8th, and Study Sync by McGraw-Hill for 9 through 12.
Do you have the clicker up there?
And I want to acknowledge right from the start, this is a real privilege for me to get to work with a community of people, because when you come to the district office, you don't get to do that as much as when you are in the schools. And this was a big committee. 33 people were on the committee. We had 3 parents, a board member, and a lot of teachers, administrators, instructional coaches, interventionists. We had a wide variety of people. What we want to do is get the experts in the room. And our teachers go to college for a long time, and they are our experts, and we rely very heavily on them. So I'm going to acknowledge that we are a very collaborative district, and it's important for us to get as many voices in the room as possible. It's all about the process in our district. We really practice what we say we are going to do. We are a collaborative district. We are a balanced leadership district. We believe in getting the input of all of our stakeholders, and we believe that their voices matter to us, and so we go through a very extensive process for all of our curriculum adoption. You guys have heard this before if you're on the board, but maybe the community has not, but we go through a series of meetings where we're creating rubrics and criteria, so what's important to us, what we think is going to meet the needs of our students. That takes us a while, but once we do that, we know exactly what we're looking for. So when we start looking at curricula, we're always looking at that criteria and measuring it against that. And we have a lot of discussions, and we ask our teachers to go back and talk to other teachers. We ask our parents to go back and talk to other parents as well. So we've had a series of meetings, as you can see, and we narrowed it down, and the good stuff came to the top. And there wasn't really even a whole lot of push and pull about, oh, we want this one, that one, this one, that one. It was, I think, after a lot of discussion and hearing from some of our publishers, we landed on some ones that we feel really good about. And if I could get you just to take a moment to look at these 3 bullets, which were kind of our goals as a committee. I'd love for you, as you're reading, to kind of think of some key words that stick out in your mind. Sarah, what stuck out in your mind?
I feel like I'm in an ELA classroom. I see consistency, same, and aligned.
Okay, good. Yes, I'm always a teacher. I can't help myself. I'm sorry. How about you, Andy?
I see high quality, standards aligned, equal opportunity, consistency, and systematic progression of skills and standards.
You had a lot of words stick out. How about you, Cara?
I like the vertically and horizontally aligned.
That's a math teacher in you. Okay.
Very much so.
Thank you. And how about you, Deb?
Oh, we're coming back to the college and career tonight, so.
Right. Yeah, that's good. There's a lot of key words there that we stayed focused on as we continued having those conversations, because sometimes what we think is important as teachers, we have to go, okay, but what's best for kids? We have to remind ourselves of that. So those were our goals. And as I mentioned, we landed on core knowledge language arts for 5th grade, and I've asked Paul Humpkin to come and speak to some of the highlights of this curriculum, and if you have any questions, he might be able to answer those. Come on up, Paul. You have the clicker.
I can use a clicker?
Yes, you do.
It's a lot of power, man.
Nerve-wracking. Was there supposed to be a buffet here? Did you say anything?
We tried, but we can't do food.
Okay. Yeah, we are very excited about this curriculum. It is designed to build writing stamina so students can produce 120 to 140 words in 10 minutes. I'm going to skip over some of the bullet points, but that's a big thing for us. We want to get more kids writing. We want them to be less intimidated by writing, and this curriculum has a lot of opportunities for kids to do just that. The next part is also very important, establishing a community of writers, which includes a protocol for sharing writing with peers. Just getting kids to share with each other, to build confidence, and help each other through their writing. Another big part is providing opportunities to use text evidence to support analysis. That is a big part of our curriculum, and this particular Amplify has a lot of opportunities for kids to do that. I like the fact that getting to the persuasive informational essays. Great example is Don Quixote's good intentions justify his actions, and as we'll see in the reading curriculum, there's a lot of great opportunities for kids to read classic pieces of literature. So that really appealed to me, since that's a bit of my background as well. I clicked the bottom one.
Turned off the...
I turned it off? Funny.
This is the intermission part of the...
Oh, who turned it back on?
I did. There you go.
Next slide.
I'll do it. That one?
Are we both doing this now?
I'll do it back.
Okay, all right.
That one?
One more back, actually. All right, so reading, we talk a lot about high-interest texts in various genres. Like I said, The Adventures of Don Quixote, A Midsummer Night's Dream, and then also integrating a lot of history and science in the curriculum as well was very important to us. At first, we weren't sure. We were trying to find curriculum that connected with the curriculum that we taught, but then the representative was pointing out that it's really nice to have kids exposed to some of the concepts they're going to get next year, like in the 6th grade. And so we really like that piece where the prior knowledge was going to be covered in 5th grade to prepare them for 6th grade, right? And of course, vocabulary lists and activities in each unit for those vocabulary lists. Multiple opportunities for speaking and listening during guided reading, and of course the assessments that they offer. up until this point, it really hadn't seemed like we were grasping for a lot of our curriculum. We didn't have a true curriculum. And so this is really going to be great for us. I'll get the next slide. Other perks, like I was just saying, all-encompassing curriculum includes grammar and word recognition skills. That was really big for a lot of us on the 5th grade team. We felt like we were really trying to cover grammar and plug gaps for quite a few years, so that was exciting. Integrated science and social studies, of course, student glossaries and rubrics, lots of rubrics, and not only that, but it was an easy-to-use teacher guide, and that really appealed to a lot of teachers as well. And then for our advanced readers, a lot of enrichment opportunities and supports for English language learners and digital components as well. So I throw my full weight behind this curriculum. I'm excited to get ready, and maybe even in May we can start covering, just experimenting with it a little bit. Looking forward to it. All right? All right.
Paul's sold on something. He'll sell the kids on it for sure, because he's very persuasive that way. Where are your chacos, Paul? Come on.
Well, I can't include in track practice, so I can't put a track
Okay. All right. So Amplify ELA. So Amplify does the CKLA, which is more of the elementary curriculum, and then we're going to get into the middle school, and Kelly Winkles is here to talk to us about Amplify ELA, which is the same company, but it's just called something different.
Isn't there 3 of us though?
Yes, but I'll just call her.
Okay.
Where's Eileen? She's here. Right there. Are you first?
No, I think she is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Eileen Roberts is also here, and Cassie, but I just thought one at a time would be.
Okay, I don't want to mess with.
Oh, yeah, okay. There you go.
Very smart.
Okay,
Very smart.
so what I just wanted to share with you is the teachers at Mile High were all really excited about this curriculum, but I wanted to test it on the kids. And we were studying drama and reading the Diary of Anne Frank. And I took one of their units, Holocaust Memories and Meaning, and I read the kids' text from this unit. And they were so engaged because Amplify offers so many different perspectives, which allowed the students to consider other beliefs and viewpoints and experiences. And it gave them a really good understanding of all different perspectives. And I think it created empathy in the classroom. For example, some of the texts that are in here was a girl who was growing up in Berlin and just how her idyllic childhood turned into just a nightmare. There's a poem from a Holocaust survivor. There's a Jewish athlete who wanted to try out for the Olympics. There's an article about Jesse Owens winning gold medals in the 1936 Olympics and being rebuffed by not only Hitler, but of course when he came home, his own president. And I think the one that got the kids the most was there's writings from a boy who was in the Hitler Youth. And it started out, it was like Boy Scouts, and they loved it, and they played games, and it was really fun. And then all of a sudden, it turned into something where the kids were like, well, what are we doing? And it just really, the kids in my classroom, it was, again, rigorous and thought-provoking. Like, they never thought of what would it be like for someone from all these different perspectives and all their different experiences. So that was what I liked most about it. Again, variety of perspectives, texts that were chosen for middle school students, rigorous, thought-provoking. We had wonderful conversations about this. In fact, they didn't really want to get to the play. They really wanted to talk about this. A large range of student interests, and most questions, texts, and assignments are text-dependent, engaging them, requiring them to engage with the text directly. And the culmination of this whole unit is the kids write an essay about what tactics the Nazis used to move Germany into a genocidal violence. So it's just really getting them to think, to really think in ways that I don't think that our current curriculum allows them to. So I'm really excited about it, and I really enjoyed the opportunity to test it out on the kids, and they really enjoyed it. So thank you.
Thank you for your passion, Eileen. I can feel it. All right, is this one yours, Kelly Winkle? Yes.
Okay, so kind of bouncing off of what Eileen just said, because all of the texts are very vast and different, and there's multimedia, their assessments also are multimedia. And that was a big thing for me because I come from a marketing background back into the education sector. And so getting kids to create the flyers or the video presentations or working in groups, communicating cooperatively, but also in the less structured group work setting was super important to me. And in every single unit, there's opportunity for communication. Kids need to learn to communicate together as individuals, in small groups, in larger groups. And so there was a lot of different units where I could implement Socratic seminars or mock trials and get those presentations and those speaking and listening skills in the classroom every day. It wasn't just you're reading all day silently and answering comprehension questions. Everything to do with this curriculum is evidence-based writing. So evidence from the text, evidence from the movies, building your own argument based off of what your peers are saying was extremely important as well. Of course, with that, how do we then differentiate for all of our varying levels? It's a click of a button. The kids don't know that they're getting a different question from their neighbor. All they know is what pops up on their screen. They're asked to write a simplified, sentence or two answering how does this character develop. That question then kind of advances in different levels. Our ELL differentiation as well, it is not yet in Spanish, but they're working on that. But also having it in like a first grader terms so they can pick out the bigger cue words to then respond in their native language or potentially in English if their skills are up to that standard. And then of course, I talked about the variety of assessments. So.
Thank you. You guys getting more and more excited about this? All right, Cassie Havoc, you're going to talk to us about integration of curriculum.
Hi, everybody. So what I'm excited about this is how, well, we know students learn best when they can make connections between what they learn in one class to another. And what I like about Amplify ELA is that they have so many informational texts that cover science, art, social studies, and students can make those connections from one class to another. These are just some of the examples in each grade level of different units that they have. And so for these reasons, I'm excited about it.
Thank you. All right, so that was 5, 6, 7, and now we're going to talk about the high school curriculum that we're recommending, which is Study Sync. And here to represent the high school is Helen Wanamaker, our English department chair.
Hello. All right. Well, where's the?
Yeah, it's just the right one.
Okay, it's just the right one.
It's that easy.
Well, as Kelly was saying earlier, we spent a lot of time trying to find a curriculum that we at the high school all agreed upon, and Study Sync came out like really it was just an easy choice. Once we narrowed down, I think we looked at 9 curriculums, and then we narrowed down to 3. And then Study Sync just trumped all of them. One of the things that we all agreed upon that we found so wonderful about this program is that it's a living curriculum. It has a database of rigorous readings that's updated each month. Those are available online and offline. So anything that I can tap into on Study Sync, I can print off if need be. And so they say they update about 5 to 6, I believe, new readings per month. And that's continual. So every year, as we hang on to Study Sync, we'll just keep building on that library. All online and print resources connect with the Easy State standards, of course. But what's nice is it is easy for us to see where, what standards are we leaning too heavily on, which ones are we missing. It'll help us kind of like move through the curriculum and adjust accordingly as we see standards maybe that we aren't touching upon as much as we need to, or maybe we need to actually just spend more time on a certain standard. It'll allow us to do that, and then of course we'll have sources and to connect to that. I think I probably said it already for that third one. We also like it because I feel like for the first time in a long time since I've been there, this is an opportunity for us to be cohesive in our teaching of English, not just among grade levels, but also vertical, but also with our special education classroom, with our ELL classroom. We really haven't had that opportunity, or it hasn't been there. We've been too scattered. This puts us together. So, for instance, if I'm going to teach a unit, in fact, it's divided into 4 very large units. And what's great about it is because within the unit, it's the theme, and then we might have 10 short readings that are available to us that would be modern literature, classic pieces, essays, nonfiction, speeches, interviews, things like poetry. And then I can choose from 3 different novels that fit into that unit. I might choose one novel, I'm teaching the same concepts and skills, but maybe somebody in special education is teaching a different novel because it's more appropriate for that level, but they're still teaching the same concepts and skill sets, so we're still all on the same page. Also, as students use their learning center in conjunction with our English classes, our special ed teachers will be on the same page as us. They'll see what we're doing, they'll have access to it, they'll see how their students are doing on a day-to-day basis. It's great for gifted, so one really cool thing about the Study Sync is that I can open up the dashboard and I can see which student is not meeting a standard. I could see what level they're at, and I can adjust accordingly. So I could be sending my kids who need more of a push, more rigorous assignment. I can give them something different, and no one else will know what that looks like. But I can also go all the way down to my ELL student or my special ed student and give them an assignment with the same concept, but differentiated for them. And that is on the spot, and that's really nice to see. I don't have to go and run to the copier and hope that it's running and make 5 different copies of something so that I could try and hit everybody. I could do it right there. We really like that. It's user-friendly. You know, I'm pretty old school. I love paper, I love books. And I was not too keen on the idea of choosing something with online access. But I found it so easy. It won me over. Super easy for me, super easy for the student. In fact, I would say it's as easy as Google Classroom, runs just as easily as a Google Classroom program would. It's also really great for the high schoolers because they can do work even offline. So one of our favorite things to hear is, I couldn't do my homework because I was on the bus for 4 hours, or, you know, I played a game late, or something like that, and I couldn't get on, you know, I didn't have online capability. Well, now all they have to do is the assignment, and as soon as they walk into school, it uploads and becomes active. And so they don't lose work, you know, so, and like I said, I guess I already covered the progress monitoring. I can do that in real time and adjust to fit individuals as needed. It's a pretty neat program. And I don't think I even have been able to really delve into everything that it offers. It's pretty comprehensive. So we'll be probably experimenting for quite a bit. Not experimenting, but everyone's gonna find their niche, you know, and find something pretty unique and special that fits their style of teaching. So we don't sound like robots. We still have a lot of autonomy with Study Sync. So that's it.
Boy, you know, being part of the English department for all 27 years at the high school, getting them to all agree on one curriculum is quite a feat. Proud of you guys. Yeah, that is a big deal.
I can't agree when it's Thursday. That's fantastic.
So if you approve and adopt this curriculum, then our plan of action for implementation is, well, I don't know if it will happen as soon as tomorrow, but that is our goal, is to have it happen tomorrow. But purchase the curriculum, and then we have an in-service day on the 25th, and we're hoping to give our English teachers their getting started professional development that the publishers will put on for them. And then May, even begin allowing them to collaborate a little bit about kind of where we're going to go. And if some of them are willing, although it's not expected, but we're hoping they're willing in June and/or July that we can begin collaborating to begin our district instructional guides. And in July, when they start their in-service, we'll begin looking at the digs and collaborate on that and just try to give them as often as possible to collaborate next year to talk about what's working, what doesn't, what did you discover, what did I discover? So that is our plan for implementation. What questions do you have?
How many other districts are using kind of this? Is this one package from these 3 different companies or from 2 different companies? Or I guess what other districts are adopting or have adopted a similar type of curriculum? Do you know?
Well, I don't know. All I can tell you is there's a number of districts in Arizona that have adopted both of these curriculums, not
Okay.
necessarily together, but they have adopted these. We know that they exist in Arizona. We kind of
Okay.
checked it out and even tried to fill them out to find out how they liked it. And we didn't get a lot of responses from teachers, but the curriculum director would write back and said, we're very happy with it, and
Okay.
that kind of thing.
All right.
I just wanted to point out some of the things that we talked about in the meetings, that there seems to be enough resources that teachers don't have to go out and pick stuff off the internet, which is where
That's
some
right.
people were getting problematic. So it just seems like there was enough there that they could stick with the curriculum, and that was cool. And then there was an integrated grammar section so that they could go through grammar all through, I don't know if it was through high school or not, but I know it was
Yeah,
through
they have
8th
grammar
grade.
in high school too.
Well, she told me to keep to a minute a slide.
Okay.
There's a lot.
No, you did good, you did
But
good.
no, it also extensive writing and grammar and vocabulary. I mean, it's just, like I said, it's so comprehensive. We're gonna have to be spending a lot of time just learning it, but it's worthwhile. And you're right, we aren't gonna be picking off of the internet anymore and everybody piecemealing things. You know, you lose the ability to really collaborate when we're all off trying to create things. So this would be a fantastic change for the high school.
Reducing variability. There's a goal of ours. Yes, the grammar, the writing and the grammar together. I mean, I remember for all those 27 years, I was teaching them separately and trying to piecemeal that too. So thank you for pointing those things out. Those were big deals for our teachers.
Yeah, just a comment related to that with the study sync. I love, the consistency, that you're not pulling things from the internet and piecing it together, but also it balances that out with the living curriculum. I really appreciate you bringing something forward that it doesn't feel like, well, we're going to adopt this and that's what it is for 15 years or something. So I'm impressed to see that, and I'm curious to learn how that works over time. Question is, when people ask me where does the curriculum come from for PUSD, what is just a quick background of the agencies that are piecing this together and working on this?
Well, both agencies, especially McGraw-Hill, is probably something you heard as you were growing up, is McGraw-Hill is a very well-known publishing company, and they have been for years and years and years. Amplify is somewhat new. I think they've been around for about 7 or 8 years. And again, highly known. If you go to Ed Reports, which is where we kind of started our process of looking for curriculum that has been tried and true. In other words, they've done studies on the effectiveness of these curriculums, so we don't just haphazardly pick something that we find out there. We look for studies that have been done, and both of these companies have those studies done on their curriculum.
There, I think, Amplify's 10 years in existence.
Anything else?
Did we get any comments from parents who came into the district office?
I got 4 people came in and looked at the hard copy examples, but no comments were left. And then I don't know how many went online to look, because we don't have a way of tracking that. But nobody sent me. When I did sex ed and handwriting curriculum and even the K through 4, I got all kinds of comments, and I didn't get any.
Good to hear.
Okay. Thanks, Kelly, and the rest of you.
some exciting things happening at the high school recently. Camille, you want to go for another year?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
It's like Christmas.
Any comments from anybody on this? Could I get a motion to approve?
I'll move that we consider adopting the 5th through 12th grade ELA English Language Arts curriculum as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the 5th through 12th grade ELA English Language Arts curriculum as presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all for your work on this. Next item is an international travel request from Mr. Neely.
No, I took that personally. Yeah, sorry, you're stuck with me. I'm back again. So I am here to go through, and first of all, I'd like to kind of piggyback on the pictures that were shown. Our students who went to Europe were just so thankful. I talked to the teachers who traveled. I talked to a couple parents who traveled. I talked to a couple kids who traveled, and they just thought it was absolutely amazing. In fact, they wrote up some responses to it. So that travel club is now looking at March 11th through March 19th, 2023 to work with this same EF Tours program and travel to Japan. This would be completely over spring break next year, so there would be no missed days of school, which was something that I requested for this one. The basics behind it, so it will be one chaperone per 6 students. The cost, which I know we talked about last time that I brought this to you guys, was talking about cost. This one is $4,210 per student. But I did find out that there are some other ways that they can assist with those pieces, including having a page where they can receive donations, and EF Tours actually does scholarships for some kids who can go through and get scholarshiped if they'd like to take part, but maybe they don't have that opportunity from a financial standpoint. So really exciting, such a successful trip, and so they are looking to do it again next year with another amazing, I'm a little jealous again, but another amazing trip. Any questions?
Thank you for the early notice.
We try to do that.
Happy
normally.
to do that.
It's the normal protocol.
Yes.
Any questions? Could I get a motion?
I move that we consider approving an international travel request from Mr. Adam Neely, principal at Prescott High School, for PHS students, instructors, and chaperones to travel to Japan March 11th through March 19th, 2023, as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve an international travel request from Mr. Adam Neely, principal at Prescott High School, for PHS students, instructors, and chaperones to travel to Japan March 11th to 19th, 2023, as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you so
Adam.
much. Yeah, and Camille, if you want to stay at the high school, you're always welcome.
All right. Next item on the agenda is memo of understanding with the Launchpad Teen Center. So
we had a couple people in this room on the front page of the paper in the last week, and Courtney Osterfeld was one of them. So we want to congratulate you for your brand new building that you put blood, sweat, and tears into raising those funds, and I know that was just a grand opening this last week, so I want to give you a hand. And on this MOU, you know, Courtney's the visionary and the creator of the Launchpad, and it's just a neat place for kids. And our kids were going there. We had a relationship with the Launchpad and Courtney, and you know, Courtney and I sat down from time to time to talk about how to get more of our kids there, or partner even more. And there were just a few roadblocks in our way, and we just said, let's do an IGA, so that we can kind of make clear to everyone, what the parameters are, lay out the legalities, lay out the liabilities, and that cleared a lot of stuff up for it. I think we did that 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, I think 6 years ago.
Yeah, so this might be the second or third renewal of it. So it's a long time, very successful partnership. There's a couple changes to it this year, mostly being the Boys to Men program, which we had a separate MOU for, is now under the Launchpad. And so
That's right.
that's part of this MOU. And as always, we had attorneys take a look at this and make changes that they do every time. And so we've all looked at that. But I wanted Courtney to, for just a minute, talk a little bit about the partnership from her perspective and just tell us about this great program.
Yeah, so the Launchpad has always worked closely with Boys to Men in the past, and they it's always seemed like it would be a natural fit for us to just be under one umbrella and help serve each other. We have teenage boys who are part of Boys to Men that come to the Launchpad and vice versa, but there are holes in the services that Boys to Men could offer as a standalone organization. So being under one roof just eliminates a lot of those barriers. So a simple example is a student that we share, a PUSD student and a teen of ours, had an incident with his family that he spoke about in Boys to Men, and because now Boys to Men is underneath the Launchpad's roof, we were able, this teenager had been asked to leave their home, we were able to immediately connect them to resources. So it just streamlines a lot of the things that we've always done in the past, but it makes them faster and easier because I can just walk out of my office and go next door and talk to the people who are working with Boys to Men. So it's great. It also is wonderful because, as you know, working with teenagers, trust is paramount. And so if they trust Boys to Men and Boys to Men is saying, hey, the Launchpad offers amazing academic mentorship, it's free tutoring, you should go. It's like, oh, I don't know them, it's a separate building. Now we're under one roof, they do know us, and that goes both ways. So teens we've been trying to get to go to Boys to Men for years now is so easy because I can introduce them to the mentors at Boys to Men right away. So the partnership's a no-brainer. It's all about the kids. And also, underneath that partnership has already expanded our mentoring. So we just hired a full-time director of mentorship. Her name's Joy Goff. Many of you probably know her. She's worked with CFSS for years. She's incredible. Anyhow, so we're going to start doing more stuff with girls as well. So circles for girls, working with Jessica Stickle a little bit at PHS. Boys to Men circles, and then also amping up our academic mentorship program, which we already have an amazing relationship with PHS and Mile High Middle School for our academic mentorship program. So in a nutshell, that program is looking at the full picture of what gets in the way of a teen's challenges with learning. So it might not just be math, it might also be having the courage to ask a question in class, organizing their backpack, not feeling like they're worthy of learning, which is a big one. And so really helping them understand that they have a place in school, that it's a privilege to learn, they should feel proud of it. And so it's really this whole wraparound approach to helping kids succeed, and it's a free program. And so our mentors communicate with PUSD staff, parents, they go to IEP meetings, and they work with the kids. And that has all been possible because of the MOU that we have with PUSD. So we're remarkably grateful for our relationship with PUSD. I think it's a win-win relationship. And I really saw how we could come together during COVID when we turned our warehouse, which had no bathrooms and like truly nothing, it was just a concrete square, into a distance learning site, and brought in porta potties and a refrigerator and served free lunch and had Sparklight amp up the Wi-Fi, and socially distanced tables, and provided a space for teens to land if they couldn't be at home during distance learning. And that was, again, working closely together. And so, we're better together. We can serve our kids as a win-win relationship for all of us. So I hope that relationship gets to continue.
You called it an IGA and now it's an MOU. What's the difference?
Oh, I get those things mixed up. MOU is a memorandum of understanding.
So have we had this with Launchpad before, or is this a
Yeah,
new thing?
This is our 6th year. We're renewing it for a 3rd time, 3 years each.
Courtney, I was able to come for your open house last week or whenever, and would you just briefly tell us what kinds of activities and services are available in your lovely new facility?
Yeah, listening to Adam actually, or Mr. Mr. Mealy. Sorry. I got excited because we have a brand new program through our coffee shop. It's called the Moon Cafe, and it's open to the public. And so it's a paid apprenticeship program for teens. It's an 8-month apprenticeship program. So their first 4 months, they're learning customer service, front of the house, how to do latte art, fun things like that that'll help you in college. And then their second 4 months, they're learning how to run a small business. So they learn about profit and loss statements. They report to our board. They help with inventory. So it's a really incredible curriculum that we modeled off of a similar program out of Denver, Colorado. And it's a paid apprenticeship. So I would love to explore ways that we can get, right now we have 5 teens working in there, but each year we'll have a total of 20 teens run through the cohort. And we pull from all different schools because we have relationships with all the schools in the district, but to have PHS students or teachers referring appropriate teens to that program for us would be awesome. Figuring out a way for them to come and work during the day, if that's something, that would be really cool. So there's that, there's the cafe, we have an art studio, we have a music room where you can record your own music. We have a stage, which is really cool, a game room. And then we have this amazing workforce development center that does a lot of trainings. So how to write a resume, how to give an interview, all that sort of stuff. And then we place those teens in internships throughout the community. So all the kids who are in the cafe apprenticeship program also learn the same curriculum, a shared curriculum around interviewing, resume writing, your 1-minute elevator speech about your strengths, all those sorts of things. But the kids who want to continue on and do internships in the community, we place them. Otherwise, they can come through the cafe and get paid to work with us. And then, of course, academic mentorship and tutoring. And then the one last thing that is really important, actually, especially given the moment that we're in, coming out of COVID, hopefully, is that we have this room that I call the Bliss Bubble. It's really our mental health room. And it's amazing. We've been working with GUMPS, which is the Granite Mountain Psychological Society, and Polera and Southwest to offer free mental health care for teens who can't qualify through Polera or other resources. And so that's incredible. There's also small groups that happen in there around 4 kids who might come together with a professional around reducing testing anxiety or breathing techniques to regulate your nervous system, things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of cool things that are happening in our new space. We opened yesterday. Yeah, to the teens.
Exciting.
Yeah.
So if we get really, really involved with Launchpad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that we can get rid of the $600,000 we just spent on all those counselors and stuff in our schools and use it for something else?
Hopefully they're not watching right now. They're pretty important in our district.
Yep.
They are, and they refer a lot of kids to us, which is also pretty awesome.
I guess that was enough.
Any other questions?
I'd say that's enough.
Courtney, congratulations and thank you for presenting tonight and the work you do for our community. On the MOU, I was hoping that you could speak a little bit more towards the monitoring and tracking of mentors and volunteers.
Sure.
And just how that works across the 2 organizations, between PUSD's expectations and requirements and then also the Launchpad's expectations.
Yeah, so basically any of our mentors who are going to be doing school circles go through the same requirements, and actually all of our requirements are virtually the same minus 1 difference. So if any of our mentors are going into PUSD schools, they're getting their own IVP clearance card. They go through our background check system. They go through our training, which Marty has seen the notes on, and so has, might mess up her name, Deb Prieto. Awesome. And so that's been approved. And then once they've gone through all of that, then they can come into PHS and do, or Mile High, and that's mainly like our boys' circles and the girls' circles, and come and work with youth there. The difference, if mentors are at the Launchpad, if they're in the room with Joy, who's our mentorship director, they still go through our background process. They still get a fingerprint clearance card, but they don't have to have the same level as PHS. Now, if they wanted to go work with PHS or go onto PHS campus, we would require them to have that as well.
Because of course our students are voluntarily on your campus.
Correct.
But if you come on our campus, then we've got all that taken care of. And then the other piece too is there's parent permission forms if you're on our campus and they're working with them.
Yeah, and like for academic mentorship, parents give us permission to to work with, to communicate with teachers directly, to see Power School. So that way there's none of that like, well, I did turn in my, not that we want to say that they're lying, but, well, I did turn in my homework, and we can look on Power School and see that maybe it got lost in a backpack or something.
I did notice several places in the MOU where it talks about parental permission.
Yes.
Which leads to my next question, which is just with this relationship having history behind it, what percentage of consent are we seeing like from students when Launchpad comes in, or for a circle or something? Are many PUSD students participating in these programs?
So the Prescott High School Boys Circle, for example, it fluctuates depending on how their grades are and what classes they're in, but they recently had 16 boys, which is actually more than we would prefer to have in a circle. We'd prefer to have 8. And so they've been looking for mentors to get their clearance cards so that there could be 2 circles. It just keeps the conversation, make sure everybody has room to talk. So there's definitely interest in it.
How many, I guess I have a multi-part question. How many students do you have that come in? I'm using the term students, I guess youth, basically, because they may not be PUSD students that you see. How many do you have that utilize your services on average every day? And
okay, go ahead.
And what's the age range of those kids?
So the age range is middle school through high school.
Okay.
So those first years in middle school, the ages can fluctuate, but it's middle school through high school, and then. So it's interesting to answer the first part of your question because we're really in a new era with the Launchpad. We're in our brand new building. We've only been open to youth since yesterday. Previous to COVID, we served around 40 teens a day, 200 unique visits a month, and then over 1,000 teens a year. And that was done out of an 1,100 square foot building. So we would do that partially on campuses, like on different school campuses, and then also having kids come to our center. Now we went from an 1,100 square foot building to a 6,100 square foot building, which is you all should come have coffee on me. Truly, the coffee shop will be open in about 2 weeks. Put pressure on the Yavapai County permitting office, but anyhow, come. So with 6,100 square foot, I hope that the majority of those 1,000 students that we typically serve, we will serve on site.
Yeah, and can you give me an idea of kind of what the greatest need is for the people you serve? I have an idea, but I'd like to hear from you. What is it that they're seeking when they come to the Launchpad?
Friendship. Yeah, it's really. Some are definitely seeking tutoring, definitely seeking a place to be after school. But most of them are socially awkward and are looking for ways to make friends. Some of them make their first best friend at the Launchpad. So that would be the majority of the kids who come after school. But our workforce development kids, they're all go-getters. They're the kids who are wanting to build their resume, wanting to get a job, wanting to get a scholarship to college. And so Project Launch is full of that type of kid. So is the apprenticeship program. But our after-school kids who just come after school are really looking for coaching on how do I make a friend?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Pretty simple.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you.
Could I get a motion, please?
I'll move to approve an MOU with Prescott Unified School District and the Launchpad as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve an MOU between Prescott Unified School District and the Launchpad as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, next item. Bless you, waiting so long.
And it probably will be real simple with no question.
Yeah, we have a request for a sole source vendor. So, Stacy?
So we are asking to be able to purchase 3 interactive tables, and it is a company named Hatch Ignite that is the only person that does produce this. It's like a really big iPad, but you can put 4 students around it. Each teacher can have up to 32 students that we can gather data on. I don't know a lot about it.
Yes, you can press that when you're ready to start.
Touch your Pick and Go button to start your plane.
Where's the duck one? The duck's the green airplane flying around. But you can put these on your airplane, and then you can press the green go button.
You want to see still for?
I don't know if we can go on extra one. No, you just can do one at a time. So I think you filled up all the airplanes.
So there's a couple different snapshots. We cannot get anything from Hatch. When we try to meet with them, it's very almost hush-hush. We have to meet with them indirectly. They give us information. They won't share with us a lot of the information because it's a program that they created themselves. But what it basically does, it does align to all the state standards. Well, not all. To most, I think it's like 65% of the state standards is what I was able to find. These state standards are in the teaching strategies goal, and that's what I came and talked to you guys about 2 months ago. And those are those pie charts where we can see how we are doing compared to other districts, other students. So it aligns to all those, the 7 early learning standards within the Arizona Early Learning Standards Teaching Strategies goal. It's a better and more fun way for us to collect some data that's really hard to get. So some of our students, 3, 4, and 5, some of them talk a lot, some of them talk a little, and some don't talk at all, but we know that there are some students that have so much data inside of their heads. Some of them know every single letter in the alphabet, upper and lower case. They know their numbers, but we can't get them to talk to us about that. So through these interactive boards, the teachers still have to be there present with them as they go through it. But we're able to start their portfolios, takes a picture of them, and each child finds their baseline and helps them to move forward in all those 7 domains. And we get to get that snapshot. We can even do videos when our students are on these boards, seeing how they interacted, how they communicated with each other, who like the little airplane you saw, who is able to grab that data faster than other students, so that we can also look at grouping in different ways too. So there's a lot of fun things that I think that we could get out of this. We don't like to put a lot of technology in front of 3, 4s, and 5s, so we're just asking for 3 tables. It would service each teacher would have a day in our technology lab where they'd be able to come and work through this process with the students and just find some better ways to formulate data, especially on our not so communicative kids, and even on our verbal kiddos too.
And the voting item is not specifically asking you permission to buy these tables. So when I got the purchase requisition, it was over $10,000, and there's procurement thresholds that anything between $10,000 and $99,999. 99, yeah. You need 3 written quotes. And so I was going to assist to get those 3 written quotes, and there's not anything out here like this. And so it was one of those, okay, so how do you procure something without violating procurement law? And so I reached out to the company, and they did say that they, had received what's called a sole source letter. It's when something's so unique, there's really not a comparable, and their sole source is a lot around the software specifically that they are, that the tables are using. A governing board can vote to accept a sole source, which then allows us to not have to get 3 quotes. In July, we bring about 9 or 10 different sole source companies to you. But in order to buy this, we decided to bring this in front of you now so we can place the purchase order to get this in front of the kids and not wait until next fiscal year. That's the voting item.
Questions?
And this is for Discovery Gardens?
Yes.
Have you talked with other schools that are using this?
We can't, like I said, there's not a lot out there, and we've tried to just get them to tell us a little bit about it. Once we are able to purchase it and receive it, there's professional development. We definitely have people that will support us along the way. It has been just silly trying to get enough information to know that this is something we want to go after. It is, I'm trying to think how many companies or how many school districts. I don't even think they told me how many school districts used it. I couldn't.
Where
get a lot
did you
of
hear
information.
about it?
So it's been something we've been looking at for actually a long time. I have a son with autism who's 23, and he's always been technology based. So it's something Hatch has had different types of technology out there, and it's just a great way to reach people. This one, it's called Ignite, is the program that's pushed through it, but it's standards based. Like I said, they've attached to our teaching strategies gold, which is the data that report to the state. So it's something that when teaching strategies comes and talks about doing some different curriculum or professional development with us, this is one of their partners that they do work with, and they do acknowledge that here's a great way to access extra data. So that's kind of how we started hearing about them, and just knowing of our little ones that aren't verbal, but we know that some of these nonverbal kiddos, like I said, are kiddos with autism. There's so much inside of them that we can't get out, but when you put them in front of a tablet with a teacher in mind also being there, it just has always made me wonder if there's more that we can do. You put an iPad in front of the kid, they're pushing off, they're messing with it, they're in and out of stuff, where these tables restrict that ability. And so it's just something I've kind of learned about, and then as Teaching Strategies Gold took hold about, oh gosh, I want to say 12 years ago, they were one of those runner-ups that wanted to be attached to them.
What does your SLP, or does our district SLP staff think of this? Have you run it by them to
So
see?
we just got from our foundation, our SLP, and one of our special ed teachers not too long ago just got a grant approved for technology for output for students to
Okay.
speak. So for this, it's another way to capture that data. It's not speaking for them, but it's gathering data for the kids that we normally can't get. So we do have communication devices
Okay.
that a lot of our students do use for that purpose, because technology is, when you're touching or you're moving or you're doing something along with those academics, it helps it to come along. It helps it to come into fruition a little bit easier.
So do you see this maybe helping those kids that maybe are verbal, but they're delayed?
Yep.
Helping move those kids up to the same level as their peers and helping them advance? Is
That's
that
the goal,
kind of
like
the
a
goal?
springboard, yes.
Okay.
It helps to keep moving that
Okay,
along.
okay.
And then again, with the nonverbal, it just helps us to gather some
Yeah.
data that we're not otherwise able to get.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, thanks,
All right,
Stacy.
thank you.
All right,
Motion to approve the use of the list of vendors as sole source procurement for this 2022-2023 school year as presented.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded that we approve an IFB number 213922. No, oh, those are the bleachers, sorry. That we approve the use of the list of vendors as sole source procurement for the 2022-2023 school year as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is approved. All right, one more item on the bleacher replacement. Brian, are you going to tell us about the bleachers?
Yes. Getting money from the school facility board is a process. Usually starts with communication with them, and then 2 years later, projects are completed. And so for about a year and a half, I've been talking with our SFB liaison about the high school main gym and auxiliary gym bleachers. And we're at the stage where we went out to bid for those bleachers. It was an invitation for bid. The bid process was about a month and a half long, and it was due, and we had specifically 2 companies bid for the project. And with an IFB, the low cost does win. And it was a company that is being represented in the award letter today, Lohr, and their bid was, I think, $396,000. And so with your acceptance, it will start a period of time. Right now, SFB has not allocated any money to this project. They have to wait till the new fiscal year, so hopefully July 1st. they will allocate $394,000 to Prescott High School getting new bleachers. But the governing board vote is the next step in the process.
I just have one, what's the performance and payment bonds, the extra $6,000?
I have no idea. I really don't. It's probably an engineering thing that is required through the IFB. We do contract with a company called EMC2 Engineering, which is a construction administration company. I can ask them why that was required, but it was required as part of the bidding package, and all of the companies needed to have that as part of their bid, or they would have been found non-responsive. Do you want me to reach out to them and find out for you? Okay.
Doesn't really matter.
I really have absolutely no idea. You
Yeah.
should see the specifications
Well,
for these IFBs.
if it was our own purchase, you would have an idea, but
Yeah.
this is a school facilities board.
Right.
Correct.
Purchase, so.
That is true.
So we're following their direction here.
And it's Greek. That's why we have a construction administration company that helps us.
All I know is Mr. Moore does a really good job of bringing those funds where they need to be here.
I saw $400,000 for Prescott High School. That's what I saw. And the next highest bidder was actually $100,000 above.
Wow.
them.
Okay. Anything else? Is there a motion?
I'll move that we consider approving IFB 213922 for Prescott High School bleachers replacement project contingent upon SFB funding as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve IFB number 213922 for Prescott High School bleachers replacement project contingent upon SFB funding as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, we will move on to the information and discussion items. Mr. Moore, did you do a school summary budget report?
and as presented. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have
All right.
questions, they're always welcome.
The next item up is the Auditor General's report.
Okay. Every March 1st, the Auditor General takes our previous year annual financial report of all of the districts. Well, I was going to say, charter schools do not have to have this happen, and so although publicly funded, it's only school districts that does get analyzed and compared to their peer groups. And so every March 1st, this comes out. And it's a little bit of nerve-wracking time because we want to be good stewards of the money, and I analyze really well when it comes to what we're spending our money on. But this ultimately tells the story of a previous fiscal year. And so we'll go over it a little bit. And please interrupt me.
Oh, I'll interrupt. I just have
Yes.
to say, when we hired Brian,
Yes.
I showed him this and said, this is your evaluation. I was kind of joking, but.
Well, no, because it is really important. I mean, it really breaks down how we spend our money. And actually, Joe, Mr. Howard probably understands this report better than I can imagine most superintendents do.
And the piece is to where we were at and where we have come is a strong, strong story.
Yes, really.
Yeah.
Incredible story. Okay, so, okay.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you. I was waiting. I don't think I can do it. I give everyone, I told Kelsey in the parking lot,
She's
she
been
had
waiting for
4
37
minutes.
years to say that.
I know. And she actually asked me how long she was, and I said she was 43 minutes. All right. I did. So, okay, so essentially what it does, it takes all of our funds and breaks it down into categories. And this is the pie charts that it is. It breaks it out into, I get a little frustrating because it's based on coding, and when I think of instruction or impact on kids, I think that should all be grouped together. But our USFR, our Uniform Standard of Financial something, is real, thank you, Clark, for knowing more than I do about my job, is very strict, and we get audited on it, and only certain things go into actually the instruction aspect. But I like to look at it as the instruction, the student support, and the instructional support, and how we spend in those three categories. And so the pie breaks it down that we actually have over 72% of all of our money going into those 3 areas. Specifically in instruction, it's over 55%, student support 11, and instruction support is 6. If you ever want to make a meeting with me, I can tell you what all falls in those. For example, special education, a speech language pathologist, you would think they're working with kids. They're helping on essential things for them to learn. That's not instruction. That's not in the 55%. That's in the student support. So it's just an example why all 3 put together is important. Then it breaks into, and most people in the non-classroom spending, they really like to narrow in on that administration percentage, and ours is under 10%, it's 9.9%. And I have some slides on how we compare to our peer groups and who those peer groups are.
Except charter schools. We'd love to see their administration percentage.
And I can look at their AFRs, I can look at their annual financial reports, and I can say that in some of the years where I've looked, they fluctuate so much. There was one year I saw 29% of the money for a particular charter school went to administration. Then you get into plan operations. This is an incredible number. It's a direct link to our facilities director, Chris Moody, and his incredible staff. The less we have to outsource, the less money we spend, and this is upkeep of our buildings. And his crew they're so skilled. We had to remodel our service center because there were some changes done previously, and we need to bring it up to code. And they've redone this. We should go buy all the drywalls up. I asked them to estimate how much they saved doing it themselves and doing it right and not outsourcing, and they probably saved $70,000 to $80,000 of district money by having a skilled group.
Say again, how much?
$70,000 to $80,000. Food service is our food service company. It's a good number as well. It's basically almost 100% of our food service management contract with SFE, and then transportation is our transportation. We spent about $1.4 million on transportation.
And we're about to compare with peers.
Yes,
so,
which is,
if you're wondering.
That's it. So here's our peer group. Some of them are interesting, how are we, but they look at all the demographics, the size, the schools, the area, and they have experts to figure out. These are our operational peer groups. There's also transportation peer groups. These are the ones for dollar operating. And you can see, and these are all of their numbers. But I thought I'd do a chart to really focus on that total classroom spending and that administration. And so if you don't have any questions on this, I'll go to the total classroom spending. Here we go. All right. So here's our peer group. The lowest was just over 64% in that A, B, and C category. I put an A, B, and C. Instruction, student support, and instructional support. I'm happy to say the purple is us. And so in our peer group, I would say it's significant. More money goes to that student impact.
I also think this directly goes to a lot of board decisions when you work on the budget. We talk a lot about the balance between class size,
Absolutely.
salaries, and programs. Your decisions show here.
If we looked at a bar graph for the last 5 years, not just last fiscal year, would we see a similar trend?
Yes. And one of the reasons it's important to look at those 3 is because I think there's a lot of, because that instruction percentage is so looked at and it's publicized in some papers and that's really what people focus on, I think there's a lot of liberty taken in interpreting the coding. And so, we have a high percentage of student support. And I do believe that sometimes that coding is put into instruction when it shouldn't.
In other districts?
In other districts, yeah. Well, and even in 5 years when I took over, for example, Terry Gorman, our special ed director, she was coded as administration. And it increased our student per pupil amount by like $30-some. The USFR specifically says no, she should be coded to the student support services. So even we were coding incorrectly. I just think that sometimes it's gray, and that's why all 3 should be looked at. And we would be at the top, or near our peer groups. I can do that for you if you want. Okay.
That's spectacular.
It's not, I mean, it's really not even close.
No.
So it's really good. Thank you for your decisions, like Mr. Howard said. And then we get to the administration one. A couple board meetings ago, I said, you know, this the classroom site, I think it was the last one actually, the spending report came out, and we were low in our peer groups, and that is in a state that is low when it comes to administrative costs.
Not just low, but the
The
bottom
last.
of the nation.
Yeah, so this is PUSD for last year. And so only one district with our peer groups had a lower administrative percentage, and that was Buckeye. And that's interesting because our budget is based on our students. So you get that pot of money, and then you divide how much we spend into that pot. And we got hit pretty hard with COVID and enrollment. So our administrative costs, we didn't close the school. We still had our administrative costs last year, but we had less students, which means our bucket was smaller, and we still were in the position. And I know all districts got hit by enrollments, but
I would just question why they have high school districts in as our peers, but I mean, they run a lot differently administratively.
they are, and
But anyway,
it is.
they have a formula.
They do, and I've never seen it published anywhere. Actually, I think it's probably a disadvantage for us to be compared to high school districts, which two are.
That's my point.
And only one of them is lower than us, and that's Buckeye. So those are the real breakdowns to the classroom spending, and then we get into a lot of other fun slides that kind of looks at teacher salaries and things. Any questions or comments?
I spent time with it. And a couple of comments that I would add to what you pointed out. I was really pleased to see the chart that shows us closing in on the state average for teacher salaries.
Joe was going to have a comment on that.
It's a great comment.
It is.
If you'd asked me when we lost the override in, a year, 2 years ago, that when at that time we were $6,000 to $7,000 below the state average, and now we're 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, that graph that you're talking about.
I really.
Here's the state, and here's us catching up, and we're getting closer.
And that includes 301. And this is the first year 100% of 301 is going to teachers.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting 1 year from now
How
what that
close
looks
we
like,
are.
because
Yeah.
now we've even infused more money into that average.
And I'll tell you, not to be a party pooper, but if we hadn't lost the override, we'd have caught it.
Yes, we would have.
We'd have caught it.
I'll tell you, it's making a difference, closing in on the state average. I mean, again, we still have to
it's
recognize.
not great, but it's an
one of the lowest paid
improvement.
states in the United States, and we're below the average
10
here,
grand
so
less than the average.
there's some pieces about it that still aren't great, but a couple of people I've hired recently, sped teachers who had their choice of sped positions like anywhere in the world, including our local neighboring districts. I asked them, hey, why are you coming to us? And I said, you're paying the most of anybody in the area. That's the first time I've heard that in my career.
A long time.
The other thing that I pay attention to on these charts is the efficiency measures, that our spending on administration is low, our spending on plant operations is very low, and our spending on food service is comparable. So,
Yeah, and we'll get to those, and you can ask questions if you want. This one, and that's exactly right, Deb.
Yeah.
I mean, as a whole picture of all
Yeah.
the slides, there's nothing but good news in these.
Yeah.
Here's the 5-year trend. Okay, now in 5 years, there has been money that has been infused in education, when it comes to 20 by 20, inflation going into what a student is worth at that base support level. And if you look in all of those non-classroom, they went down. That's because, I mean, everybody is still receiving raises when 85% of all of our M&O money goes to salaries and benefits, and everybody gets a raise when we give the raise. But it means that our costs of operating the plant, our transportation, We still are very lean when it comes to our administration in comparisons. All of those have gone down in 5 years, and all of the classroom instructions have gone up. Good trend. The others are per pupil. I don't know. Any questions on this one? All right. This is what Deb was talking about. They do comparable when it comes to transportation, but with COVID and with such significant, we still transported kids, we still paid everyone, we still had exactly the same transportation costs, but then they divide it by kids, and our ridership was so down.
Yeah.
I mean, it was astronomical. The Auditor General came and said, you spent $9 per mile. You think that's right? And that was after a year we closed for a quarter. And I said, yeah, that's right. Well, we just didn't have this many kids riding the bus.
Okay.
But really, our administration per pupil spending's low.
But that transportation, again, this is just comparing to FY21, not the 5-year.
Correct.
Okay.
But last year was such an anomaly that they said, we're not comparing you to your peer groups, because we have a transportation peer group. They're just like, we'll do the calculations, we'll put it on here. Don't put any money into it because of what happened.
Right, but basically looking at, it's not very useful. But if we were to look at it over 5 years, would we still be very low?
Yes. Yeah. Well, yes. Like I said, Mr. Howard alluded to 5 years ago, our report wasn't very good, but it wasn't because it was because it was inaccurate.
We weren't playing the game right.
We weren't.
We didn't know the rules very well.
And ultimately, the coding was wrong so much that we weren't providing them the data that they needed in order to accurately portray our numbers. Like the Terry Gorman being coded in administration.
Right.
That $896 per kid, 5 years ago, her position being in administration would have bumped that number up $35 per kid.
Which also means that our numbers might seem inflated compared to 5 years ago. In that example of that per pupil spending.
5 years ago was
Right.
inflated, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 5 years ago, we were more
It was
inappropriately. In fact, 5 years ago, our number was over $900.
Gotcha.
5 years ago. And then the next year, when things were coded correctly, it went down to 720. We had 200 per pupil incorrectly coded. So these are accurate, and these are compared to our peer districts, which we have to expect that they're coded correctly. This is the one that, do I have a laser pointer on this thing?
Yes.
Ah, okay. Now that's Paul Humphrey would like me to turn it off. Here's a 5 year, 5 year. We've never had a state to Prescott average. And it also has to do with us retaining staff. Every time we hire a teacher who's been, with, a new teacher, they're coming in at less. That does lower. I like not hiring new, but it is a savings.
There was a state syndicated article, I can't remember who came out of it, wasn't the Courier, but and it highlighted Prescott and said a lot of school districts did not meet 20 by 2020 in terms of getting those raises, but it showed that we did.
I think that was in
26%. Yeah.
Republic exceeded it.
We exceeded it. It was 20. Was it 26 or was it 21?
21, I think.
I think it was 21, and where they were reporting, it was 16 average across the state.
It's a priority.
It absolutely. This is the 301 money, but that is included in the 53. And we'll see what it is next year, and with an extra 1,800 that they're getting this year with 301. These are hard numbers just because this number of students per teacher. Anyone who's coded as a teacher, they take that FT divided by the number of students, and we don't have many classes with 18 kids. But
that doesn't show class sizes. That shows the students per teacher.
Correct. Yeah. That is mathematically black and white. It's math.
Right.
So I think this is the incredible aspect is that, look at our longevity, 23, this is teachers in their first year, 3 years. I mean, 3 years ago, we had 1 out of every 4 of our teachers had 3 or less years of experience. Last year was at 13%. Some districts would kill for that. Oh, yeah. And really, that's the end of the Auditor General's
So we should be able to give Clark some more work to do because he isn't going to have to do all that hiring.
He is.
I'm a man of leisure.
No, he's the Director of Human Resources / Special Projects, and that's special projects. We're going to be going Clark's way.
All right.
Questions on the Auditor General's report?
Well, thank you for this report. I got to read it at like 3 a.m.
With a baby.
It seems like we're trending in a lot of really encouraging directions, and all of those little fine-tuned year over year and comparing specifically with classroom spending. And then when it comes to the non-classroom spending, which includes administration, transportation, food service, etc., it seems like it's not necessarily alarming, but it's like we're not spending in relation to our comparable areas. And I'm just curious if we can look at that, because the pot of money isn't getting bigger. So obviously we're prioritizing things like classroom spending, including instruction, which is awesome. And how are those other areas maybe, I don't know, just not, whether it's the facilities, et cetera. Chris Moody sounds amazing, and we love that he's saving money and so skilled, but how might we be, I don't know, in a trend that...
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
I really do.
That's a higher level thinking way to use this report and say, okay, that's great, we're low. Now, at what point does that start to put a strain in those areas? And I've heard other districts say, okay, we've been low in administration for years, now we're going to start putting some money into administration because we're feeling that crunch. I'm not feeling that crunch right now. I think we've got great folks in place and things are rocking and rolling. But you got to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I really do. And with transportation, food service, and the facilities, it's dangerous because the more skilled folks we have, or the more we're efficient in those areas, it frees up those dollars, and it either increases our carry forward, which we utilize in our budget package, or we say let's get that over to instruction. We have to keep our eye on that. I think our facilities are at the top of their game than they have been in a long time, but it's essential. I mean, that's important, and I hear you.
And also, when you say that and you think about Chris Moody, or you think about Clark Tenney, or you think about Ryan Moore, in my opinion, we have a lot of right people in the right places, and they've been a long time coming to those. Again, you have to keep your eye on when those people are going to shift out. We've got to have a bench or the funds to bring in the best from outside also.
Yeah, and it goes every area, even purchasing. In the last month we saved money because we have someone who just says, you can do better than this. And they cut it by 20%, but that's the right person. So it's important.
I'll say as well, there's a lot of places, just with the administrative piece, that it costs them a ton of money to bring people in, and they churn through administrators because they don't have a board that's as supportive of this. That doesn't look at the work that gets done and say, hey, thanks, appreciate what you're doing, and give support for things. We don't get undue negative scrutiny from you. We get support from you, and that's one of the reasons that people like to be here and stick around. We try to have that trickle down to our schools as well, and I'm sure that that's the case. One of the key reasons why we don't have the turnover there. People feel supported. We have a great culture here that starts with you, so I want to thank you for that.
I think we need to make sure that the community knows this. However we can do that.
And answer the one person in the audience, the two people online?
Yeah.
I'll talk to you
because
tomorrow.
I think
well there too.
I think this is the type of thing that a lot of people don't understand funding and budgeting in public schools in Arizona, and it's a mystery. I mean, there's no way anybody should understand it, but anybody who does is sitting right here. And so we need the community to know this.
I think this report, what it does is it puts a glaring spotlight on how we consciously, calculatedly analyze everything we do. We are extremely good stewards of our money.
Yeah.
And we should make our taxpayers proud for that.
Right.
I'll just add, I feel like we do have that figured out well. We talk about this during budget. I think we're good at it. I think we're efficient at it. But we live in the desert of education. And there's some articles that come out lately that are pretty clear that while our legislature has put billions of dollars into education, so has every other state in the nation. And we're still number 48 in the nation. And we are still funding our students and our teachers and everyone that works for us and our families that come to us at a much lower level than the rest of the country. And I, for one, am tired of watching that for 30 years. Imagine what we could do with this efficiency if we were funded even anywhere near the national median, anywhere near. And we figured some things out, but maybe the rest of Arizona wouldn't have a teacher crisis shortage.
Yeah, I could imagine being in
so much more
in a district that didn't have such a supportive community. You point out our gifts and donations, every single, our Prescott Education Foundation, we have such support. And it goes to the support to the teachers they're feeling and
right, we have $1 million foundation. How many school districts have that? We have a Jewish community foundation that gives us a $60,000 playground. We can't do this without the support that we've had from our community. But, that's inequity when you look at the rest of Arizona. If there's a community that doesn't come together like this, so their kids should be funded at a lower level.
Yeah. And my point is, I think that people need to understand the care and concern that goes into the budget that's part of this district every year. And I just get tired of hearing, oh, you're always asking for more, you're always wanting more, the schools have too much money in this state. And that isn't the case. And what we do with the funds that we have is amazing.
And that's why I worry about,
right.
It's almost like you all are doing so well with efficiently using the funds and prioritizing things like classroom instruction to the point where it's hard to see that potential. And that's why I point out things like the facilities or the non-classroom, because I don't want to say what is suffering in order to prioritize the things that we value, but certainly we're having to,
we are the masters in not letting the bleeding show because the kids can't feel that. And Annie, just to kind of your point, I think Clark, you're the one who found the article that said, we spend over 50% of our general fund as a state of Arizona on education, which I think ranks in the top 25% of all the states of how much their general fund goes to education. So you would think that would translate to being one of the top funded education states. And it's not. We're almost last. This is an education funding issue. We shouldn't have over 50% going if we're funded appropriately.
And I appreciate this conversation. And Sarah, you bring up some philosophical pieces that really go with initiatives like bonds and overrides. And I won't get too deep into it, but I'll just say this from experience. There's a lot of people in the community that'll say, you're not letting us see you bleed. They don't say it that bluntly. But bottom line is, show us how bad your buses are. And I just have to say, our philosophy has not been that. We have said, no, we are not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on where we thrive. We're going to focus on the success of our kids. And we're going to do everything we can to not be bleeding. And so that big philosophy comes across as in terms of how much do we get this under control and have it under control and not complain about it per se in public. And that's been a challenge in my career always. Because I do my fair share of complaining, as you just heard, about being number 48 in the nation over and over and over again. But do we run our school district in a scarcity way where we tell everyone how bad things are? Or do we celebrate the incredible things that are happening? And this Auditor General report is one. And then we could go on and on and on all night about what our kids do.
And I would say, if anybody says we should run our school districts like a business, well, look at what we're doing. And show me a business that runs it better than this. Because I don't think there is one.
I love that. I've said that to legislators.
Yeah.
I said, you can come and look at my budget. If you got some ideas, we'll take them.
Yep.
But
exactly.
a lot of Arizona superintendents say, we could go to another state and say, we can run her for a third less and you can pay me a third less, you know, and I'll get a raise, you know. But that's Arizona education.
Right.
But to your point, Andy, yes, I think PUSD and this board and past boards have figured out how to maximize efficiency, and we're super proud of that.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, Brian. We're moving on to ESSER and COVID money. Anything
No.
to report there?
It's the same.
That's easy.
It really is. We're getting
In
quotes.
process.
ESS, we purchased, I think it was 40 new laptops, desktops for use out of their allocation, or the district. They just purchased iPads to assist psychologists with testing kids and the psychologists. So just a lot of purchases happening.
Okay.
And an interview process for the district intervention
Yes.
coordinator, which has been talked a lot about in this room.
Yeah.
What I'd really like to do is end up in June, is bring, like I did with the bond, and really break down what the purchases by
Yeah.
site, by
That'd be
category.
nice.
Because it's really, I mean, they're busy right now too. And we're also at that point, supply chains are hard. And we can't order something now that we don't get by June 30th and resolve any issues. So we're almost at a standstill. We cut purchase orders
Yeah.
off in April.
Yeah.
So,
It's been kind of ugly. Okay, thank you.
so
just have one-
as presented.
One question, it's
Oh.
on COVID, but what is the COVID child care fund?
Oh, it's,
And what are we encumbering for $87,000?
that was on the budget where I said, as presented, you didn't have a question at that point.
But it says COVID.
Oh, that's, okay, there you go. So Maria Perello, the assistant, helped to Stacy. They went out and got a childcare stabilization grant, and they were awarded it over 2 years, and basically can purchase things to help with enrollment loss at the grade level. I mean, we're talking they're probably going to have about $280,000 from this grant, and so the encumbrance, they're purchasing a lot of really cool things, and the
But
tables.
it's grant money.
It's all grant money. It's actually not ESSER 1, 2, or 3. This is a subcategory of the ESSER federal, and they grabbed it, jumped on it. When I put the tables that we just did a sole source on, they're purchasing out of this fund, and the encumbrance will go on the next month's document. So I can give you a list of everything they purchased out of there, but they're
It was
both.
childcare, so, you know.
No,
It's
it's
just
stuff. Special Ed and Discovery Gardens, they're like in a feast right now with the monies that they went out and sought, and so,
Okay, thank you, sir.
as presented.
Joe, anything on COVID?
I'm just gonna say we're down to 2 to 4 cases a week and see how fast Brian can do head math on that percentage. I'm thinking 0.0134.
1% would be 30. So
It's low.
3%.
It's
That'd
low.
be one
And we're happy.
thousandth
And I
of a
can barely
percent.
remember that half of this year was intense with COVID.
Yeah,
But we're not there right now. We are living in the now with prom
Three.
and graduation and everything we've talked about tonight, and it feels like it's
That's
supposed
cool.
to. Yeah.
well,
Oh.
all we can hope is that if there's a bump,
Yeah,
it happens in the summer.
Yeah.
yeah. That'd be
Yeah, but
1%.
it's hard to believe that how the beginning of this
Yeah,
year started.
yeah.
And how we feel right now.
Yeah, okay, good.
86,000th of a percent.
Was I correct?
No.
Okay, we'll talk later.
Okay.
All right, next item
I
on the
was.
agenda is any comments from the community?
Mine were kind of an amalgam of what I just said, so there you go. Regarding budgets and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Invite them to come and talk with me.
Yeah,
Seriously.
yeah.
I really haven't been hearing much just lately. So. Future agenda items. I'm still working on setting up a meeting with Humboldt they have agreed in principle. It's just a case of getting us together, so,
Need to find a date.
yeah. Our next regular meeting is the 3rd of May, here at 5 o'clock. And then we do have the dates for our June and, or our extra June meeting and our July meeting, June 28th and July 12th. I will be in Ireland June 28th, so you guys are going to have to do that one without me. That will be the first meeting I've missed since I was elected to the board.
We can zoom you in.
In the middle of the night?
You could fly back.
I'm not that good in the middle of the night. Sorry, guys.
So there's 2 meetings in June
Yeah.
on the 7th?
No.
No, we
There's
don't have
two-
a regular
The
meeting
regular
in June.
ones are changed to these.
These two
Okay.
days.
So
just
It's
one June
because of
The budget.
budget
The
stuff
Right.
that
We have
has
to
to be
wait till the
done.
state comes out with the new budget forms, and then we got to scramble to get them done.
So-
And then
Yeah.
Yeah,
so.
so, anyway.
And typically, I'll just say, Deb, we'll miss you, but those are a little shorter, less meaty
Yeah.
meetings because we
Yeah,
don't
we
get as
don't tend to
many
get
folks
too
in
heavy.
town, and
Yeah.
we really kind of just hit the mandatory budget stuff then, right, Brian? And there's a lot of housekeeping
Lot
stuff.
of consent
sole
items.
source stuff and consent items.
So, unless you want to meet at 9 AM, I'm probably going to miss it. Okay, I believe we are adjourned. Thank you, thank you.
Nancy?